This is the doghouse. Time to face the sound. This is the doghouse. Time to face the sound. We don't back down, we stand our ground in the doghouse, where the real are found. No chains, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. Where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just a cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're waiting for you. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just a cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're waiting for you. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're ready for you. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. No running, no bluffing, no running. No running, no running, no running. We don't back down, we stand our ground in the doghouse where the real are found. No chains, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. No second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who fight, and we're ready for you. When the truth's our ammo, we're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. We don't back down, we stand our ground in the doghouse, where the real are found. No chains, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. No second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. We don't back down, we stand our ground in the doghouse, where the real are found. No chains, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're in for you. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're ready for you. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who bite, and we're ready for you. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. No running. No bluffing, no running. No running. No running. No running. We don't back down. We stand our ground in the doghouse where the real are found. No change, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win. No second guessing. No second guessing. This is the doghouse. Time to face the sound. Welcome to the doghouse, where the strong survive. We're tearing down the walls, no compromise. No filter, no mercy, just the cold hard truth. We're the ones who fight, and we're ready for you. When the truth's our ammo, we're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. Locked and loaded, the truth's our ammo. We're breaking down the doors, no more shadows in the doghouse. It's all or nothing, we're here to fight. No bluffing, no running. We don't back down, we stand our ground in the doghouse, where the real are found. No change, no fear, just pure aggression. We're here to win, no second guessing. No second guessing. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound. This is the doghouse, time to face the sound.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? So, guys, welcome into the Political Compass. We've got about 15 minutes before we go live. It is going to be a great show. I'm excited to have you guys here. This is going to be awesome, y'all. So, yeah, there's a lot to go on with this. We might talk about it afterwards. We'll kind of give you a little bit of the format going into this and kind of how things are going to work. I hope you guys have been good. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of news and things like that. But tonight we're going to be kind of shelving that a little bit. We're going to be focusing on our new show called The Political Compass. You'll notice that my backgrounds look a little different over here now. I kind of like this one. It's a little more clean. It's a little more subtle, things like that. But guys, I hope you're excited. I know I'm excited. Also, the mic is sounding pretty good. I got new lighting. Y'all, we're ready. Okay, we're ready for the big time. All right. But I'm excited to have you guys in here. If you're on Twitter, make sure you hit that follow button. We're going to be doing this show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You might be wondering, well, Doghouse, how is this going to work? Well, it's quite simple. The way that this works is we have a core group of us. There's about 4 or 5 of us that have been really trying to have some meaningful conversations in politics. And we'll kind of cover this again, but I'm just covering for any of you guys who are in here currently and watching this. If you're on YouTube and you're watching this after the fact, definitely go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. And so that way you can catch more of these as we do them. We will be cutting this up a little bit and you'll see some more of these YouTube videos. So don't worry if you've missed anything, you will see them later on posted to YouTube. But here's what we're going to do. We've already got a few of our guests here waiting for us in the voice chat. So we're gonna just jump straight on in there. That's what I'm gonna do. We're just gonna jump straight on in there. So let's go ahead and do that now. Here is our guest. Let me go ahead and change my settings. There we go. A little bit better. Not the greatest, but it works. Okay. Let's see here.
Which is
All
all
right.
scouts.
All right, fellas.
But
Can-
possibly in the future, it might be that she's away at a baseball tournament or something. Because it depends on
All right,
if
guys.
the
We are
Hello.
hot and live. So just so you're
Ooh.
aware, mics are hot.
hot and live.
Hot and live. How have you
Should
been,
put
Demon?
something on
You're looking mighty thinner than I remember last. I'm a little
Ooh,
bit
thank you.
concerned. I'm a little bit concerned about your health there, buddy. You doing all right?
I'm down to 163.
163?
I work all the time.
What was your heaviest?
The heaviest I've ever been has been 187.
Oh my god. Yeah, dude, you're looking a little thinner there than I remember last. I don't know.
I'm also older, so that doesn't help. But yeah, I've lost weight. I don't know why. I feel fine. I just keep losing weight.
I'm gonna turn you down. You're a little loud on my end.
My bad.
And Doghouse, you don't want to see me in a fucking tank top. I weigh 135 right. Or
Listen,
no,
if-
it might be like 140.
Listen, if we all want to start wearing tank tops, I'm perfectly fine with it. Okay, we can be the tank top crew. All right,
Just make this a tank top
Demon.
show.
I don't. Hey, look, I don't know what you're rocking with, Demon, but I'm working out. All right, so you're looking a little more toned than I am. That's just because you're like $160.
Yeah,
right? I'm working
like-
on it.
I got I have abs and shit. Because
Well, yeah,
I
would
have
expect
no
so.
fat.
You're at 160 pounds. My God.
Yeah.
Wes,
But
how have you
although
been? Yeah.
I can do pistol squats easily.
What are pistol squats?
What's that?
You ever seen it? It's where you do a one-legged squat.
One-legged.
Oh.
Well, maybe not easily. Like
Yeah, let's see this. Oh my god. Man's
Wes,
about to do
calm
it.
down, Wes. Calm down, Wes. Wes is getting a little too excited over here.
I mean, this is impressive.
Impressive. Okay. Sure.
Holy shit.
Yeah, those are.
Wait, does your right heel touch the ground?
That's
So
that-
are you balancing at all on the heel that you're not squatting with?
Yep.
Okay. I thought it's so dark. I thought that other heel was lifted, and I was like, "This is a feat of
Oh,
God."
no. No, my other heel is not touching the ground. My heel that's on the floor is touching the ground. My foot that's flat is touching the ground, but my foot that's sticking up is not touching the ground.
Oh my god, that's insane, dude. I feel like that would be so hard for me to do.
I remember when I could do like.
yeah, with the light. Let's see this.
Yep.
Okay.
It's just
hard to Demon's keep it gonna-
down there.
Oh
Did
my-
you do leg day at all today? Because if you did leg day, that's even more impressive. Because I know how
Oh.
that goes.
I haven't. Well, like I said, I've been exercising a ton because of just lifting boards
Yeah.
and like.
You're doing the alpha male stuff, right?
the exercise of the people building
Exactly.
things and cutting down trees?
I wish I was cutting down trees, but yeah.
Moving.
But I mean,
things
I
that
spend
need
a
to
lot
be
of time moving vigorously, is the way of putting it. When I walk quickly. When I'll randomly run or whatever, just for shits and giggles. Like when I go into Costco, I'll leapfrog the damn red posts outside.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I feel like if I saw somebody leapfrogging over posts out in the wild, I would probably question that person's sanity. I'm not gonna lie.
They're perfectly sane because they don't care.
Couldn't do it.
It's just fun.
Oh, Wes, how have you been, buddy?
I've been as good as you can ask. I'm doing all right, hanging in there.
You attend any Antifa rallies recently? Never mind. That's a little
I
secret
mean,
question.
I mean, it's fine. I was completely in black bloc. Nobody could tell who I was.
Well, now they do. I hope now they do. Someone in there was Wes. Now we know for sure. Honestly, I haven't seen any kind of like large Antifa rallies in quite a long time, to be honest with you.
Hey, because Antifa rallies don't exist. That's not a thing.
Well,
That's not a thing that happens.
it happens. It's just it
It
hasn't happened.
doesn't.
Do you think it has something to do with the fact, like, I know we're kind of like leaning a little bit into a little bit of the topics, not even really the topics, but just kind of like talking about it in general. But like,
It's fine. We
do-
got 8 minutes.
Yeah, we got 8 minutes to talk about it. So, do you think some of that has to do with the fact that Donald Trump is no longer in office, and so the issues are not so much like at the forefront?
Yeah.
Because I've
Yeah, I think that'd be a huge part of it. Like, I mean, again, Antifa, well, not again, for the first time, Antifa is anti-fascist, and like they only gather to protest against fascism. It's not like some highly organized group that like does things on purpose. Like, yeah, they're anti-fascist groups, but like,
I have a question.
yeah,
Has what particular? How do they categorize a fascist?
probably by
What
like
criteria,
the 14,
descriptions would they pick as the descriptor?
probably like the 14. I think it's like the 14 tenets of fascism.
I don't know what those are.
Let me 14 points of fascism, 14 defining characteristics of fascism. Do, do, do.
I was gonna
Oh,
say, are you
this is
looking it
the
up, or are you suggesting I look it
terrible.
up?
No. I'm looking it up.
Okay.
Because I'm familiar with the concept, but I wouldn't know them off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to be pointing to 14 characteristics of fascism.
They don't want 13 because then it'll be like cryptology, and they'll say it's the 13 colonies or some shit. And
Well,
then
no,
it's, 13
I'm like
disciples.
almost surprised it's 14 because 14 is reminiscent of the 14 words.
There you go.
Umberto's 14 points is the way. Thank you, cancel account.
I got
And by
four
the way,
dogs.
welcome. Hello.
trying to adjust
The
my
enemy
damn
is weak
settings.
yet strong, control of mass media, and undermining quote unquote truth. I don't want to go through like every single point, but look up what cancel said. Umberto's 14 points of fascism. And if you want to like read that, that's when you start seeing more than like two of those, your alarm bells should be.
I wonder how vague they are.
They're pretty interpretable in a lot of ways. Like I can definitely see a right winger looking at these and being able to somewhat apply them to like liberal policies, with some creative imagination.
I just want you guys to know, if you ever work with two separate cameras, make sure that you never get the same branded camera, by the way, okay? Because I'm like,
I've
I don't
done
know
that.
if you've done that before, so you know exactly what I'm
Yeah.
going through right now. Like, I'm trying to adjust one camera, but because it's the same Logitech. But yeah, like the tenets of fascism thing. Like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with Donald Trump not being in
Okay.
office.
Umberto's
and-
14-point approach.
Again, like if Antifa was like an actual political movement, then they would have something to do in between the Donald Trump era and now, but like they're not actually a group. Like I'm
Hold that thought. I'm gonna go get
Antifa.
more drink and get new batteries before we sit down for the rest of it.
Yeah,
Sounds
absolutely.
good.
Like I'm Antifa because I've shown up at like some of those rallies and dressed in black bloc and like, been there for some anti-fascist things, but like I didn't need to do that since Trump has been out of power. So it's just like, again, anti-fascism and Antifa, as they're called, is something that shows up as a response. It's not like a political organization
I mean, look,
that does shit.
I think there's two. I mean, look, I'm gonna tell you like kind of how I view it. Is I view it there's two different kinds of like sex with like SECTS, but I'm Texan, so I can't say the T, so it's really
Yeah.
hard. But There you go. Exactly. There is Antifa the group, and then there's Antifa the movement. And I feel that those are the two separate things to look at, because there are bad actors that are within Antifa that I think really kind of fit into that area. More of the group where they do organize, but they may be pockets. They're not necessarily one massive organization per se. The
Yeah.
Antifa movement itself, not the group, but the movement, sure. Like I think most people would sign up and say, "Hey, look, that's uh,
Yeah.
a good
Like
cause." Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, but
Oh, you're
like,
good, good.
do I think that there are like 30 to 100 people that are dedicated Antifa and like actually have like plans and do things that are anti-fascist in between elections and stuff? Like, yeah. Like I think there's, and that's a joke, 30 to 100. I'm sure there's like a few thousand people who like hold up the Antifa flag if there is one and like call themselves Antifa year to year no matter what. But like it's not actually it's just an anti thing. Like anything that is anti does not have any reason to exist when the thing that it is anti does not exist. So it only shows up in response. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, Demon, what are your takes on Antifa, the movement or group or both?
I mean, I think it's just like any other militant organization. Like they're willing to do violent type things to accomplish their goals. So kind of a lot hypocritical in that instance, if that's the case. Like the thing is I really want to understand what is the key point that they feel is that tips somebody over from regular person to fascist. Like, is it one? Do you have to meet a criteria of them? Do you have to match 4? Is this like bingo? You have to get the 4, but they have to be in a row? How does it work? Do you have any ideas? Like,
I mean, I can respond, but I don't want to like be the only person taking the floor here.
Be my guest, please, because
I-
I am
I-
fighting
don't we
my
have another
camera right
lefty
now.
coming on?
Well, so I guess it's a good pivot point because we're getting to close to the 7 o'clock hour anyways. And my camera, I've been fighting my camera this entire time, guys. It is like a massive pain in the rear. I don't know if you guys are noticed the flickering of lights going on and off as I'm trying to fight it. We're talking about fighting anti-fascists. That works. All right. So this is a good point and kind of a segue that I can get into and kind of talk about what our show is about. We are now basically at the 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time hour. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. Actually. Oh. All right. So for anyone unaware, we have started a new show called The Political Compass. We are currently awaiting one guest at this moment. He should be joining us any minute. We are a group of people. This is not necessarily a regular debate panel that you guys may experience normally.
Yeah.
You may notice that there are varying viewpoints in this very room. We have Demon Machine over here, who I'll let speak on his beliefs, but he kind of represents the right side of the political compass. You have me, who represents the center right. Wes, who's the more of the lefty. And then we eventually will have Sansel on here, but he wasn't able to make it today. He's going to be our liberal. And then you're going to have Tiberius D coming in any minute now, I'm sure. Tiberius D will be our centrist-ish. Okay, he's going to be kind of the center right, center left.
He's going to
more
be
of a
you?
Hey, we're not getting into that today. Okay, that's a whole nother show there, Demon. We'll get into that.
I see.
Yeah. So the fun thing about this is that all of us have kind of come together. We've all been in the same spaces together. The other thing is that we've all been pretty tired of how conversations are taking place online. So this is kind of a way for us to get together, have a reasonable conversation, and honestly bring back some of that normalcy back to online politics. There was a day and an age when I first came into Twitch politics, and I think Demon could advocate for this as well. He's on a lot of my older videos as well, where we would just shoot the shit. We would have a conversation. It wouldn't get too heated. There was no real drama in the background to try to drum up that. The entertainment value may have been a little bit lower, but guess what? We had a lot more reasonable conversations. And at the end of the day, we all shook hands and said, hey, this is a great conversation. So that's kind of the point of this political compass, is to bring quite literally everyone from all sides of the political compass and bring them together. What we are going to do and how this will be formatted, so everybody is aware, is that we are going to do about 25 to 30-minute blocks per topic. Each one of us has chosen a topic that we are passionate about and that we're going to talk about. Afterwards, we're going to have open call-ins, which means, look, guys, if you want to join the Discord, then now is a good time to plug the Discord. I will go ahead and do that now. You can jump in the Discord and join the waiting room. And what we will do is bring you guys in and we'll just have a conversation. Otherwise, it'll just be us kind of shooting the shit for the next 30 minutes to an hour or whatever. So this is about a 2-hour long show altogether. Our guests here may come and go after that first hour is over with, but that's how this is going to be laid out. So moving forward, I won't kind of lay out this introduction as much, but because this is our first episode or first show, however you want to lay it out, I kind of want to give people an insight as to what to expect from this show. If you're expecting to come in here and see blood sports, there may be an inkling or two coming in. Speaking of our boy Tiberius D, here he is now. Welcome in, Tiberius. We were just kind of laying out a little bit of the show and kind of how it's laid out. But yeah, guys, so this is going to be really interesting. We are going to have all of these uploaded to YouTube. So again, if you're not following my YouTube, that is where all these episodes will be posted. Again, these guests here are also streaming as well. Great streamers. Highly recommend viewing their streams as well. So whatever they do with it, they're more than welcome to. But I will be definitely posting some of these clips and videos and things like that to my channel. Also, last thing I want to do is give a huge shout out to our man Redtron. For anyone who doesn't know who Redtron is, he's been working in the background to try to really boost my YouTube channel. It has been tough. Okay. For some reason, I've been becoming more TikTok famous and Twitter famous than I have been YouTube famous. If I don't know how the fuck that happened. Okay. I don't mind saying it. But yeah, so I don't want to be a Gen Zer and become TikTok famous doing weird dances. So if we can please make me a YouTuber, I'd prefer that over TikTok. Okay. Nothing against TikTok.
All right, old man, guys. Calm down.
Listen. All right. I'm
rambling, bud.
I am rambling. Okay. We're already 4 minutes in. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let our guests here kind of introduce themselves, introduce their beliefs, where they lie on the political compass and things like that. We're going to go ahead and shoot it over to Demon Machine. Demon Machine, go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of give your bit of a background. And then after everyone introduces themselves, then we'll jump into the topics.
I'm Demon Machine. I've done this for a decade and then stopped about 6 months ago. And now I'm kind of doing a little bit more. A little bit more, but coming at it with a completely different perspective and mindset, and it's going to be interesting. Otherwise, I fix cars all day, and I do tons of research on stuff because all of a sudden, since I stopped streaming, I have a ton of time and a free mind to dedicate to learning stuff too, which is also nice. So I'll have much more information to bring you in future things or even today. It'll be very fun. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited. Anyway, continue. I won't take up that much.
Go ahead, Tiberius. Introduce yourself too, buddy.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here for the brand new show. Before I introduce myself, just a little bit of a TLDR. I am having some storms in my area, and I have just recently moved here. So if I happen to cut out, that might be because of power or an internet issue, so I apologize in advance. Hopefully that doesn't happen. If you're not familiar with me, my name's Tiberius D. I am basically a massive nerd. I'll talk about Star Trek, Star Wars, and 40K all at the same time. I do a lot of politics streaming, or at least I used to, but I've kind of separated that from a little bit because Democrats don't like me and Republicans don't like me. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those politically homeless events that I've been going through for the last couple of years. So lately I've been kind of streaming just me playing Warhammer Total War and kicking everybody's ass as the High Elves. But yeah, if you just want to engage on the finer arts of topics, whether it just be your favorite fantasy universe or whether it just be the fact that a lot of politics sucks right now, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me, Doghouse. Great to see you again, Demon Machine. It's been a while.
Yeah, bud.
All right, our friendly Kami over here, who is blurring his face for Kami reasons, okay? He is over here. Wes, go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy.
What's up, everybody? My name's Wes. I actually don't know why my camera is doing this. I haven't used this camera in a long time, but I just turned it on and it has no idea what I'm trying to do. So I'm dealing with it.
Are you living in
I'm-
space?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it recognizes my hands, but then like it thinks
You
that
just need
I'm
more light.
6 inches away. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Anyway,
I figured.
I'm Wes Sisa. I don't stream and I don't care about like Twitter followers or anything, so you don't need to follow me anywhere, and I don't need a lot of time anyway. I do have a quick question. Answer this in like 20 seconds. Demon, are you excited for Smite 2?
That was a great question.
That's a good one. I liked it. I liked it. Boys, you guys excited for Smite 2? Yes,
What-
we're thrilled.
Is that a real thing? Is that coming?
Yeah, it
I'm,
is.
I'm not, okay.
They are doing it.
It actually is, yeah.
How many years has it been since Smite 1?
I don't know. I haven't played Smite 1 in a long time either. I
This-
loaded it up not too long ago, like maybe 6 months ago, and did like 2 matches and was like, yeah, I'm
This rem-
rusty.
Whoa!
No,
We have
Ah!
listen, for anyone who's not aware, we have never seen, as far as I can recall, Wes's face until today. This is a reveal. This is a face reveal, okay? If you're a long-time viewer, this is a face reveal right here, okay? Especially if you're in Demons chat, okay? Y'all have heard
Yeah.
Wes's voice many times, but you've never seen Wes's face. We have
Oh,
finally
and for you
seen
guys that
him.
are wondering what's up with my hair, I'm growing out the mohawk, is what it's doing.
Oh yeah.
So it's still a mohawk, and it's just getting longer because I'm gonna go for the Viking thing. But that's all.
All right, guys. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump straight smack dab into the first topic. So what we're going to go over is how we're going to do this is Demon, you're going to go ahead and introduce your topic, kind of give a little bit of an intro on what your opinion is on that. And we'll kind of go around the room, give our opinion on it, and we'll just kind of free ball it and see where it goes.
I mean, it's gonna be really quick because I don't even remember the content of the video at this point. But
oh, come on now.
I mean, it's your normal stuff. But basically, it was about how difficult it is for people with ADHD to get a hold of their medication right now, specifically. And the manufacturers have also bragged about having an opportunity to make extra money by not making more kind of stuff. And like, I'm all for that. If you're not making money, you need to like stop production kind of things. But there's got to be a little something we can do for the opposite, especially when it's something that is I don't want to say mostly a need, but largely a need, because a lot of people they've theoretically they have no way of controlling it. So, and the medication is critical. So I think it also is a ailment that ails a lot of the society, but not as much as we thought. So that's all. Anyway, I really hate and also the government's is also well implicated into this too, in which they have been making some laws and taking some bribes and stuff like that they can't really specifically say because there are no charges yet. But I mean, how do you get it to do that shit? Apparently, they can do it in front of cameras and stuff all day, and just nothing happens. It's getting a little old.
Tiberius, where do you stand on this subject when it comes to like, and you can expand this out besides ADHD medication? I know we just recently had Joe Biden, I believe it was last year, put a cap on insulin prices. And so I think this is kind of tangential. And I know you've been kind of a big commentator on how that would affect economics. So where do you stand on this?
So let's get the personal part out of the way. I have actually been diagnosed with ADHD, and while I don't actively take medication for it, I have in the past. I know there's a lot of people, my fellow people who have gone through it, that usually use Adderall, and that's been a problem to get for the better part of over a year now. I can deal because my symptoms have largely manifested more into bipolar disorder. So I don't have like the hyper ADHD where I'm kind of going around, can't focus on a damn thing. I have the emotional bipolar disorder of I'm irritated at everything all the fucking time. And unfortunately, I've never really found any pharmaceuticals yet that help me that don't have horrible downsides to them as well. So I'm kind of just, basically mainstreaming this without. Wish I could find something that take the bite off, but usually that always has a really big carry on. All right, let's talk about at least what the government's been doing. The long and short here is that we keep trying to see price caps on what these kind of policies are doing, and for the moment, the consumers have been pretty happy with them because people aren't paying $100 a month plus. Like a lot of times, people have been saying $300, $400, $500 a month for their insulin, and that's no longer happening. And I'm sure a lot of people politically like that. What I am deathly afraid of is that we've seen this in the renting sector and the housing sector back in the 70s and 80s. And we've seen this where pretty much every time we have a price cap, for a moment it's good. But then after a while, the consumer or the producers decide either they're going to invest their product into something else that makes a lot more money, in which case you get a shortage, or they simply just don't refine and innovate anymore. Remind you, the vast majority of the reason why insulin's been a problem is that these newer insulins that come out that are faster acting, that aren't as what's the word I want to use here? They're not as let me flip it this way. They're just more forgiving, right? You don't have to be as on point with them where you have to take them every 6 hours or every 8 hours or every 12 hours like you did with the old stuff. You really can just be like, oh, blood sugar's low, take it or shoot it, however you need to ingest it. They're a lot more compatible is what I'm looking at. And the problem is that a lot of that is evergreened to where these are stuff that's currently under patent. So only Novarisk or Eli Lilly or whoever is making it has that licensed patent. They can charge out the ass for it. And we're getting new stuff. And it's been better and better acting stuff. But it's expensive as hell. And so what I'm concerned at is either, one, we're just going to see the end of innovation within that sector. Or two, we're going to see it where all of a sudden there's a shortage because they decided they're working on Adderall pills because they can make 10 times the amount of money building that or making that than they can insulin. I'm going to rest my case on that.
Okay. Yeah. I'll kind of hit on that in a minute. I'm going to let Wes kind of take the mic, and then I'll kind of bring us into a nice little transition. Wes, where do you stand on this?
No, I don't have a whole lot to say on this. I watched the video that Demon provided before this on like the grift and like who's making money off of this, and I was much more interested in that part. So right now I'm really just listening and learning a lot.
Sure.
Because I see what Demon's video is showing, which is like people taking advantage of this and being capitalists off of it. And being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make an extra buck because I know that there's an Adderall shortage because the government is limiting how much amphetamines and basically speed they're going to allow like CVS to use to make their drugs. So I don't know. I was looking at it from that way, and now I'm just listening and learning.
Yeah, and I'll kind of give my take on this is from what I was able to research is it seems as if a lot of this ties to COVID. I know we kind of say that anytime we have an economic issue is like, well, it's because of COVID. But what it has seemed to have been is that there's a few different factors, including telemedicine. So a lot more people are able to get in touch with their doctors than previously were able to. And that telemedicine is really tied back to, yes, Wes, what's up?
I just wanted to be like next to speak, but I
No,
just wanted to
yeah.
ask, like, how much do you think like TikTok and self-diagnosis and like that whole trend contributes to what we're seeing right now?
I'm not. See, here's the problem is that it'd be great if we had like a
Okay.
psychologist. I was gonna say it'd be great if we had a psychologist here because as far as I understand, Adderall or Zyvance, I think is what the other one is, are both prescribed medications. So as far as I understand,
Yeah.
even if you're self-diagnosing and saying that I am, but then that kind of ties back to our psychological standards. And when we go and see a psychiatrist, and this is why we're seeing a shortage as well, is that there's an over prescribing. This is at least what the pharmaceutical companies are saying, is that we're seeing an over prescribing of ADHD medication. And this has taken place, in my opinion, even prior to COVID. This has been a long-standing issue that we've seen, as far as I can recall, even in early 2010, where we started to kind of see an increase in children earlier on being freely handed ADHD medication. So this has been a long-standing issue.
That was happening when I was a kid.
Exactly. So,
Like
yeah. And now
they tried to
I
give
don't,
it to me, but my mom was like, "Nah, he's fine."
and I don't know if this has something to do with it, but I know that last year Biden took stances to try to limit the prices that they can really put in for prescription medication. Now, I didn't look too much into that. Tiberius may have a better insight on that. But yeah, so for me, when I look at this, I'm looking at it just strictly as a supply and demand issue. There's an over increase of demand, but not enough supply to put out of it. And of course, they're also trying to put in place these price controls for these medications, which is making it even more difficult because they have to work within a certain parameter when government kind of gets involved.
I mean, I just want to make sure that like all you guys, y'all see the chess game that happens between the government and the private sector, right? Like the constant back and forth, the constant. Well, the private sector will innovate, and they will innovate their way right around your rules as soon as you make them. They will figure out something. They will do something to just make it nullified or even turn it on its ass. They will rarely just be like, okay, and then do it.
Oh,
They'll
half
do
the
that
time
for a long enough time to get to the around it.
it depends. Half the time they are like okay because of regulatory capture. They know that their competitors can't compete with the new set of regulations, so they're happy to have the regulations.
That's the people who are winning and are usually the regular. That's part of the chess game. It's the whole thing is that too. Like
Yeah, I'm not saying
that
that
to make a rule that says you can't have a social media unless you get everybody's verified identification through that service, and you're like, I'm trying to start a new fucking social media, and I don't have that kind of money to buy that service.
Right. Yeah, it is a dance or a chess game. There's a lot of metaphors for it. I'm with you, and like the problem is that both the left and the right kind of tap at this, but I don't see like super consistency here. Where there's a lot of measures that are done to try to protect the consumer, which I at least agree with the general like idea that the private sector can hold.
I agree with the sentiment of I want to make sure that consumers don't get poisoned or don't get killed, but
right. A lot of those practices that we try to put in to make sure that the consumer doesn't get killed tend to be incredibly anti-competitive and make it to where in the long term we either have businesses that are like too big to fail, or the reality is that they become monopolistic. It really is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying I to me, when I look at this situation, I think I go back to looking at what had happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. This is a question that we have to look at: is how is Kamala Harris going to address this, or Donald Trump? With Kamala Harris, she has talked about implementing things like price controls or price gouging laws. We've seen, on the other hand, Donald Trump, who wants to try to lift government regulations. I don't know if he has quite spoken on anything regarding medications. But as far as I can recall, it would just be something along the lines of lifting those government regulations. So, but anyways, where do you guys, you know what? I was trying to see if we can squeeze a little bit more juice out of this. Let's go on and let's move on to the next topic, unless anybody's got anything else to say. Let's go ahead and go to Wes. Wes, you had something kind of tangential to this conversation about price gouging and price controls and things like that, and something that I'm sure Kamala Harris has had quite a bit to say. So I'll go ahead and pass this torch to Wes. Wes, why don't you go ahead and introduce this topic and kind of give us a little bit of background on this?
All right. Well, I kind of agree with what Kamala has been saying in her stump speech about like price gouging, and like I'm on board with that. I'm not like a Kamala fan by any means. But the issue at hand would be Kroger admitting that it was price gouging. And this is something that I have been a stick in the mud about for probably almost a year. I've been talking about Kroger price gouging and Kroger posting record profits while blaming inflation for the cost of or for the increasing cost of their goods, while the egg market and Kroger were both posting record fucking profits. And I was just like, no, that's not just inflation. You're taking advantage of inflation and you're increasing the price even more. And I think it was last week, the Kroger, he has some weird title. It's like Kroger Pricing Administration Officer or something like that, admitted that they increased prices more than they needed to, and they used inflation as the reason, and they told their customers that the reason the cost went up is because we passed inflation onto the customers. Our costs went up, so your costs went up. Sorry. But they weren't just passing it on, they were passing it on and surpassing it, and they admitted to that last week. So I want to talk about why this is like so criminal in my mind. And like one of the main reasons that I find it so criminal is because this is food that we're talking about. And so like I want to immediately like stomp out any ideas that people are going to say like, oh yeah, like it's normal to like increase prices for inflation and then raise prices to make more profit. Like that's fine if you're selling a Louis Vuitton purse. I don't give a shit if inflation is 3% and you raise that the price of that purse by like 10%. Like this is food. And it also makes it easier for competitors to just go along with the price inflation because, again, it's food, so you have to buy it. So, like, if Kroger raises their prices to $5 for a dozen eggs and Walmart raises their price to $5 for a dozen eggs, neither of them lose business. They both just increase their profits, which is what we're finding out what is exactly what. So that was a long speech.
No, it's okay.
Intro, but that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, I got you. Tiberius, what do you? I know you've been on quite a few panels already, kind of talking about price gouging and some of these price gouging laws and things like that. Go ahead and if you could just give us kind of your opinion on this whole thing about Kroger admitting to increasing those prices beyond inflation levels.
Yeah, there's a long and a short to this. I'll try to keep this short because I've got a lot of different subtopics that I want to cover on this one. Obviously, some people are just pissed because a lot of people had to pay 30% more for their groceries last year or the year before compared to what they're used to, and some of that has come back down. Like chicken and pork per pound is a lot more in favor of what it was on the pre-COVID days. Steaks kind of a little high, unfortunately, but for a while their eggs was expensive as hell, right? A lot of people were pissed, and I totally get it. There's also levels where I've kind of been bitching about Storm for the opposite side of this. Americans have the lowest cost of food in the world, subsidized and unsubsidized by quite a large margin. We actually waste about 40% of it every single year, and most of the shit that we eat is terrible. A lot of this is making us incredibly fat. We do not ban high fructose corn syrup, which is banned in about most of the Eurozone, and it's as addictive as cocaine. Almost every major metric that I look at indicates that our food is actually too cheap. We waste too much of it. We don't actually try to preserve any of it. We don't actually seem to actually engage with it in a constructive manner. I know that's a bit of a hefty thing to take, but it's at least
like saying gas is cheap. Everybody burns it. That's the argument of the greenies a lot of the times, is that gas is too cheap. People are just going to waste it. They're going to ride their fucking dirt bikes. They're going to drive their big fucking truck. But now with food, you got the same problem. There's too much food. What are we doing with it? Well, we're making bad food because we're trying to make so much of it because we want to make sure we always have a surplus. But if we make shit food for a surplus, then is it really good for us?
Yeah, there's obviously a more nuanced conversation to get into with here, like subsidizing corn versus subsidizing tomatoes. I think that's a great sub conversation. But what I'm getting into is like there is a conversation to be had about even the Greens where they're like, hey, look, we don't like what these people are doing, so we want to increase the cost of this and pull the cost of this down. It is the same conversation. In a nutshell, it's priorities. What are you trying to prioritize and what are you trying to discourage? I know me and D Machine are probably going to go a round or two on this one, but I can't wait to have at it.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Demon Machine. Go straight into it. Let's just jump straight into it. What you got, Demon Machine? What do you want to say? What
about price gouging and shit?
Price gouging. Kroger, more specifically, Kroger was saying that they admitted to basically price gouging. Wherever you want to take it, man. Go ahead.
I mean, at this point, all you can really do is just not shop there. That's the first thing you do is just do something else, and that'll hurt. But I mean, more
I
realistically,
am
it's
I'm
go ahead.
I'm trying to raise
Good.
my hand so
You're
hard right
good. Go.
now
Dude, just go
without
ahead. Jump in,
interrupting.
buddy. Hey,
But like
interrupt.
I want
free.
to I want you to realize that the reason that this came up is because they're trying to buy Albertsons and they're in an FTC case right now for an antitrust law because they're about to have close to a monopoly. So saying just buy somewhere else is literally the reason why this came up is because for a lot of people there's not about to be a somewhere else. There's only going to be a Kroger owned operation, whether that's Kroger or Albertsons. That's why they're in an FTC case right now. That's
That's
why
wild.
this came up. So like the
How many
one thing I
grocery
don't
stores
want
do you
to
have
hear in
around you?
this is just go buy
Out of
somewhere else.
curiosity.
They're not it is the most popular store in my state. Like there are more Krogers in my state than anything else, but the store that I shop at is not owned by.
Are all the stores called Kroger, or are there other ones that are not called Kroger? Is Food Lion Kroger, or
You know,
is Publix Kroger?
I don't actually know, but I'm willing to. I'm guessing that it's probably like a like a family of brands. Like for you, Volkswagen. Like Volkswagen
Yeah,
owns a
like the Bag
million
Group.
brands. Yeah, like
Yeah.
so I think it's probably something like that or like Nestle. I don't know. For
Well,
all
I
I
mean,
know,
I guess
the place
the
that
point
I
is,
shop at is technically Kroger.
I
It might be.
I guess I haven't. We have one Kroger, and it's pretty popular, but we have in my area
Don't y'all
there's
have
like
a food?
7 different grocery stores within a mile.
I was gonna say, doesn't the
3.
East Coast have a lot of like Food Lions and stuff like that? I
Yeah,
think
we
that's
got
a
Food
pretty-
Lines all over. We got 2. We got
Well,
yeah, we got 2 that are pretty much the same distance from my house.
the reason that they're in an FTC case right now isn't an anecdotal one.
I mean,
It's
I'm asking,
because
like,
they're
is it
about
it's for a
to-
monopoly though?
Yeah, it's
But what-
it's an antitrust case.
Where are they? I guess I'm trying to figure out what all the stuff what they're a monopoly of. Because if it's
I-
grocery stores, I don't see it down here. It doesn't mean it's not somewhere else, but like
Well,
it's really lopsided here. Like we have one Kroger for 7 other ones.
I feel like we've had this discussion before where I've had to like clarify that antitrust laws and like monopoly laws don't just apply if you are a literal monopoly. Like you don't have to be the only person doing it.
Right.
But if you control like 51% of the market or something like that, then
Well,
I don't know exactly.
Why
how
is
it works.
I was gonna say what makes 51 bad versus 50? Because you still only have half the
Because
market.
if you control most of the market, then you can control prices, you can control market shares.
Well, you can
you know-
control what your part of the market does, but if the other people don't listen to you or if they want to take that as the opportunity to go around you because they can undercut you, then that's their opportunity.
I'll take this moment to kind of go into elaboration on what exactly it is that the FTC is looking to try to block, just so that there's some clearer air here. This is an article I got from a local10.com. It says antitrust regulators say the proposed merger would eliminate competition, leading to higher prices, poorer quality, and lower wages and benefits for workers. In February, the FTC issued a complaint seeking to block the merger before an administrative judge at the FTC. At the same time, the FTC filed a lawsuit in federal court in Oregon seeking the preliminary injunction. It says, will Kroger and Albertsons close some stores if they merge? They say no, so that could be a big part of what it is. If the merger is approved, Kroger and Albertsons have agreed to sell 579 stores in places where the stores overlap. The buyer would be CNS Wholesale Grocers, a New Hampshire-based supplier. So basically, yeah, it's kind of like what Wes is saying, is that essentially that they're saying, hey, this is getting to be a little bit too big. What I don't know if this necessarily implies that it is a monopoly, but I could see where you can draw that distinction because they're basically saying you're getting pretty large and it would eliminate competition.
if they're forced to sell 579 stores where they overlap, that's already telling you that they're saying no, you would have a monopoly in this area.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they mean by overlap?
One of these stores.
So
It means that like if you
I mean-
go west down the main road for 3 miles, you can find an Albertsons, Or if you go east down the road for 4 miles, you can find a Kroger, but they're both owned by the same person.
And there's
That
nothing
that
else around.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
So
Or no
so
like real grocery store.
right, there might be like a Dollar General or something like that, right? But I think
Yeah.
that the bigger
Did
part
you
of
hear
this,
they were having some sort of
And
issue
that's what
too?
they call food desert.
Dollar General is having some issues. Their stocks like absolutely plummeted, and I haven't looked into exactly why that's the case. But if y'all know why, let me know.
I think the CEO of Dollar General was like, "Yeah, because people don't have any money right now.
Yeah.
They're just
So
not spending it."
this is where I want to kind of bring it back a little bit because I wasn't able to really speak too much on that price gouging thing. This is something that I've been really a big um, commentator on, which is the profit that companies are making. I'll kind of give you my quick spiel on this. There was a bigger detailed spiel I can give, but then I would put you to sleep with all the boring accounting jargon. Let's just put it this way. When you have a company that has multiple different revenue streams, not just in grocery, but also if you look at any kind of Kroger Plus, where they sell like t-shirts, in some cases furniture, you have pharmacy items, for example, it's very difficult to narrow it down to exactly one product that is exactly going over that inflation percentage. And again, I would expect, me and Wes kind of can get into this a little bit as well if you would like. Where I would say is that I would expect companies to pass on inflation to consumers. Now, to a certain degree, and me and Wes talked about this a little bit off stream, but I'll give you guys kind of what I had discussed with Wes, which is that I think there's a level, right? And this is the problem, is that that level is vague. Did they increase the price and they passed on consumers to by, were they over the inflation limit by 0.1%? Or were they over the inflation limit by, say, 10 or 20 or 30%? Because that's dramatically different, right? There would be a need to explain, why are y'all over by 20%? Now, if they're over, by 0.1%, okay, I'd kind of expect that, right? When you look at CPI numbers, it's really kind of like just an average, right? This is what we're seeing throughout. So you're going to fall within that scale at some point, right? Either you're going to be a little bit under that or you're going to be a little over that. Typically, if you're going to be a little bit over that. So that's where I stand on that profit sharing. Tiberius, you've been kind of quiet over there. Is there anything you want to chime in on this?
Not at the moment, actually.
Okay. Wes, what do
Now,
you
like,
yeah.
I was
Go
just gonna say,
ahead,
there's
Tiberius.
there's not anything that you guys have really like chimed in on that I disagree with, or I'm like, yeah, I want to add extra nuance to it. Like, you guys have been hitting the nails on the head as far as I can tell.
Yay! The country's coming together.
Where's Sansa? We'll fuck that up real
solved
quick.
it.
All right. Hey, you know what though? I think I want to make this kind of a staple. I'll find it whenever I get a stream deck, because I do intend to get a stream deck at some point. If you guys want to, sub and give a little bit of money to allow me to get a stream deck, I could totally do that as well. But I plan on getting a stream deck and want to have like some kind of thing that pops up and says like world peace or something, where we all have agreed on something. And when we talked about it earlier about the food, how other countries, for example, ban high fructose corn syrup, and I think we all pretty much agreed. I'm like, holy crap. This is why we bring everybody together here, because we're all reasonable people who don't have to find a reason to sit there and like argue against why we should have high fructose corn syrup in our fucking supply chain.
Want to
So,
cloud your
The
judgment.
only difference is that my answer for everything is capital, and we agree on everything
I
up
agree.
until that point.
Everything is capitalism, and it should be. See,
And then I'm
agree.
like, no, that's actually capitalism's fault. And let me tell you more.
yeah.
No, I did have one thing I wanted to add
Yeah, go
on that inflation thing before we move on.
Sure.
Is that I do think that it doesn't matter to a certain point how much that inflation number was, because it is food. I want to like make that clear that that's my stance, in the sense that like, if I agree with you that it is normal to adjust with inflation, and I agree with you that it is normal to adjust to increase your shareholder value because you have a fiduciary responsibility to them to do that. So it's normal to want to increase your profits. But when you are selling food in a fucking pandemic, when people are struggling, it's really hard for me to give you any benefit of the doubt, whether it's 0.1% or 25%. I kind of don't fucking care. Like, you are selling the thing that keeps people alive. and you need to be able to do that without seeking record-breaking profit.
Yeah, let me ask you guys this.
I don't
and
know.
I want to get y'all's opinion on this because this is kind of tied into it a little bit. What are y'all's opinions about Kamala Harris's price gouging policy that she has put out there? Do you think that this price gouging thing is kind of a good thing to look at? I know, Wes, you mentioned that we have basic food products, and we don't want people to capitalize or get price gouge on these particular food products. What are y'all's opinions on this Kamala Harris price gouging policy that she has proposed?
I don't even. What was it? What was the TLDR of it? I think I read about it.
You got to explain the actual policy. I've heard her talk about price gouging.
Yeah, I never heard a particular policy mentioned.
actual
She always just
policy.
talks about she's gonna fix the prices or something, and it's like if you're just gonna fix the prices, that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, the only thing I've heard is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make eggs cheaper. Tiberius
Yeah.
looks frustrated with
No, I'm not frustrated with you. I'm frustrated with her. So like, I swear to Christ, like whoever is the campaign manager for this has literally been telling Kamala, don't say anything of substance ever at all, always.
Yeah, pretty
like,
much.
Yeah.
like literally the entire like campaign has been about, instead of the
Air.
issues, just ignore giving any kind of like actual detail, actually like any policy, and just be as milquetoast as possible all the way into the election. Just literally run on, you're not Trump.
Well,
and then,
the
and
short
then
answer
let
is
Tim make you look progressive. That's gonna be a big one. Let Tim get you the progressive vote, and you'll be fine.
yeah.
What were you saying, David Machine?
It's like they're trying to run on feelings instead of anything else because they want people to feel good. They want to talk about anything that's like hard to describe, that's difficult to explain or anything like that. No policy things that people can actually talk to each other about, but be like, if your feelings are hurt, then you should vote for me because things have happened that require my attention to make you feel better.
Well,
Is that any different from the Republican platform?
There you go.
right now?
I was about to say,
Politics
look,
101.
I'm about to go like full mask off, and anybody in Demons Chat is about to start reading at me, going, "Doghouse, you're not doing this. You're not going to do this." Listen, I'm about to pull out the white dudes for Harris. Okay, so listen,
Oh my god.
listen.
Oh.
I think that it is completely reasonable, given that she has only recently, shortly jumped into this, where Donald Trump has had a year or more to actually more, I would say argue more than a year to really formulate his policies and define them. I think that I look at with what Kamala Harris has done. I think that it's completely reasonable. And if you look at Donald Trump's policies, they're not any better. They're a little bit more detailed. But even then, his economic policy is drill, baby, drill. And it's not anything about trying to address the rising prices at the dinner table. And so that's where it's like, look, I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of the price gouging laws. Let's be clear on that. But I do want to give Kamala Harris a little bit of grace on that. That I think that when you look at what she has kind of insinuated is it seems as if what she's implying is that there's going to be a threshold, right? Which when you look at natural disasters that take place, there is usually a threshold. If you have a bottle of water, for example, that only yesterday was like $2 and now all of a sudden it's $10 or $20 per pack, there is some kind of price gouging potentially going on, which could be investigated. So depending on how she implements this policy would determine whether or not I give it a thumb up or a thumb down. Now, I will say price gouging through several years, I need more, but I give her a little bit of grace. Okay. But yeah, so anyways, that's my stance. I'm sorry, guys, if I took the mask off and I just revealed my white dudes for Harris with my white T-shirt. Okay, but yeah.
Well, I mean, like the real question is though is if you're gonna stop price gouging, how do you do it? Do you just tell people you can't do it, and then you fine them if they do?
What would happen? My prediction of how this would happen is very similar to what happens during natural disasters, which would be someone has to raise the claim that there is price gouging going on, in which case there would be a government body that would oversee that particular issue. They would probably investigate it, and if need be, they would actually bring in the executives or whoever needs to be brought in. They would, ask them, hey, can you justify why it's going up? At which point, then, if they determined that there was some kind of price gouging going on, they would probably fine them or something along those lines. It wouldn't. It's hard to determine whether or not this is technically a price control, because I wouldn't say it is a price control. It's not like the government sitting there saying every product like this must
You
be
just
sold.
can't have a 100% increase on a product overnight.
Exactly.
Like that is normally that has been stable for the past 10 years.
Exactly. So, like I said, Retron buddy, hey, don't mind you jumping in, man. But can you jump in at the 8 o'clock hour? There you go, buddy. I think you jumped in by accident. But anyways, that's what I think it is, and that's why, from me looking at that perspective, I'm like, okay, it sounds scary. I know a lot of people want to try to paint her as a communist because she's trying to put in price controls, but I don't think that is exactly necessarily what is going on, and I think there is a big difference between this and price controls. So that's just my opinion on it. What do you think, fellow comrade Wes?
I think people like underthink this, and they think that price controls are going to be something like, oh, you're not allowed to charge more than 35 cents for a loaf of bread, but it costs like $1.25 to make a loaf. Like, these things are calculated and the experts are consulted. Like, you're still going to make money on a loaf of bread. And that's the part that like kind of annoys the fuck out of me, because it's just like, sorry, I swear.
Is that
more
true,
than anything-
Tiberius?
No, it's okay.
Oh,
man,
I'm
it's fine.
sorry. I've had a long day. I'm just a little tired.
I mean, you do farming, don't you, Tiberius?
My family does. I've actually migrated into being an electrician's apprentice, but I've got a long history with it.
So how easy is it to make money as a farmer?
Not
Oh, here we go.
So so if it's not easy to make money as a farmer, and grocery stores are making fucking profits out the ass, where's the problem? Where do we fix the problem? Because it's not the farmers. We know that they're growing the shit and
Oh,
trying to
it's
get it out as fast
definitely
as
not.
possible.
And it's a commodity.
Yep.
I want people to remember this too. There are
stop
certain
hitting the button.
products that are commodities. So when we talk about oil, for example, and a lot of people drill, baby drill, that oil is sold on a market, and that market is what determines the prices. A Shell is not saying, hey, I'm going to sell you this barrel for $10. It's whatever the market, actual physical market prices are. But anyways, go ahead, Tiberius. Sorry, wanted to throw that in there.
I mean, he's actually not too far off. One of the problems is that it's a commodities market, and there's a big conversation on if the practices of the Chicago Board of Trade are okay. One of the things that people don't realize this is that you can sell your grain before you put it in the ground. In the ground. Sometimes it's great; it helps you out. There's some times where it's like, oh wow, I could have made almost 30% more if I had sold it at market whenever it had come actually to do. But it's one of those, damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. I'm not going to get into that. Let's be real. There is a long line between field to producer. Sometimes that line is a little shorter. As example, like if you're doing watermelons right now, because it's watermelon season, that usually will be harvested by hand, put in a box, or put on the back of more particularly on the back of a truck. It'll be shipped to a distribution center, and then it might hopscotch around depending on where it is, but it's only going to change hands about 3 or 4 times before it hits your shelf. That's not too bad, but most of the things that you take in and day out, particularly when they're off season, that might come from at least a couple thousand miles away, whether it's Southern California and the fact that they can grow all year round, or whether it's from Mexico. Don't even get me started on avocados, for God's sakes.
I was just about to say, like, I know my avocados are from thousands of miles away.
Avocados are, a ways to go. You got bananas as well. But here's the real part. Some of the stuff is just, it's an industrially made product, and it's hard to be the producer of that and make a lot of money. You just have to literally do it at scale. And this is why farming is a go big or go home. Is that you have to be able to afford the now $250,000 combine to keep up with your throughput. If you've got it, you can stay competitive, but good luck getting into it. And so that's a problem. As far as the grocery stores, dude, I'll be real. I know Kroger had this article, and I'm sure that a couple of grocery stores have followed through with this, but food has been a really weird market for quite a long time. And when we've gotten down to it, we saw probably the biggest market correction on it because of COVID that we've seen in probably the last 20 years. I'm not saying it's where it needs to be, but
Yeah.
I think this is an anomaly that's kind of just part of the fact that COVID screwed everything up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wes. You wanted to say something, Wes?
Yeah, I just want to say that Target recently agreed to lower most of its food prices by something like 30%. And then Walmart and other major big box retailers followed in suit because they had all raised their prices so much that they could afford to drop it down like almost 30% recently. On like the big items they sell a lot of, like bananas, milk, eggs, stuff like that. So like the reason it's been cheaper in the last like 3 to 6 months is partially because of that, because a lot of big box retailers drop their prices on essential items.
Yeah. And I'll wrap this topic up with a little bow here and say this, and I'll get the last word because I'm the host. And so I get the last word, hostess with the mostest, right? So what I want to say is this. I think a lot of this just really comes back down to when you peel apart the onion and you peel back the layer, you actually see it's a big, complicated beast. Okay. We just went through kind of the supply chain a little bit with Tiberius, explaining kind of how it gets to market a little bit with the grains and things like that. And as he was saying that, I was thinking about how does that supply chain look? It's a believe it or not, it's a simple but complicated supply chain because throughout each part of that supply chain, you have labor, you have overhead of a building, you have all these other things. And in some cases, you might have union represented warehouses or factories or things like that. Okay. So our friendly unions. But you have things like this as well that complicate the supply chain. And to further make it more complicated, you have big box retailers like Walmart, like Target, like things like that, that actually sell other products. This is taught very much so in college and very much in other businesses, product diversification. What Target has mastered with this, as well as Walmart, is they're able to kind of bring you in and have loss leaders and things like that to get you to come in and buy that new hot TV that they white labeled because they were able to get it manufactured for cheaper, but it's basically just a Samsung TV. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you're into electronics, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's one thing what I want to talk about is when you look at profit, understand that profit is a complicated beast because some stores will not reveal the exact product breakdown of their profit margins. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna move on to Go ahead, Wes. I'll let you get the last word, Wes, because that was there's a lot there for you. I'll let you get the last word.
The last word I want to have is when it comes to food, if you are making money off of Kroger merch and you're making 20% more off of Kroger merch, and you could put that money towards reducing the prices of food, which is something that people need, you should have done that instead of posting. That's
Yep. All right. So let's move in to our next topic. Tiberius, this is your bread and butter. I had to do a little bit of research on this, and I won't lie, I was kind of shocked. So I'll let Tiberius go ahead and give his introduction for his next topic. Go ahead, Tiberius.
Okay, so I wanted to bring something a little spicy to this particular first one. Generally, what's happened is we've crossed one of the big red lines that
Oh no.
Russia has
There
said
you
that
go.
no one could do. Ukraine has invaded Russia proper. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I figured I was going to do that at some point. Yeah, we've crossed one of the big red lines for the Russians. Actually, that's probably the KGB coming after me now that I think about it. But anyway, long story short, Russia basically told everybody that if Russia proper had been invaded, that they were going to throw nukes at pretty much every major Western capital, and that was everything from Warsaw over to DC. Everyone was getting, basically getting their nuclear weapon pointed straight at you. Well, obviously that didn't happen. We've got about at least about a division's worth of troops of Ukraine within. We've got about a division's worth of troops of Ukrainians within Russia proper in the Kursk region, and so far there's nothing different. Now, have we been here before in some levels? Yes, but it's usually with the Americans. You can't gas people, and then people get gassed, and we don't do shit about it. Or there's levels where it's just like, oh, you can't, do this thing, and we say we're going to respond, and we don't. Well, now it's Russia's turn. So the big conversation that's kind of falling through with this is that some folks are kind of having this debate. It's like, all right, should we continue this process of what they call escalation management to where we're not trying to, have everyone go jump on the big red button, but there's also a level where it's like, hey, there's blood in the water now. They didn't respond. You know, can we actually make the Russians really and truly bleed now?
Are we going to break up Russia?
I don't know if it's that far, but it's one of those deals where it's like, okay, you know, if the Russians aren't willing to follow through on their threats, and I could have said they weren't going to do that, where do we go from here? And it's a big combo. I mean, there's more options than we have open to us that we have to take off because now that people can actually take the fight to Russia, does anyone want to join? Is there some people that are like, oh, wait, you know, we know we're the next on the block, and I'm largely talking about Poland here, who's like, hey, you know, if there's actually a fighting chance here where you're not damned if you do, damned if you don't, what's to stop us from saying yes? What's to stop Washington from being like, oh, well, if the big bear isn't going to actually follow through with what they say, why don't we put the knife in their heart this time? There's
China
a lot
not
of
backing Russia anymore, though.
They've always been very opportunistic on how they've been approaching the Russians for the last couple of years.
Think they turn on them? Do a Stalin?
Okay, so this is actually the big question. There is a part of Russia called the Russian Far East. This is a place called Vladivostok, which is the Russian Pacific Fleet Base, and a few other places that the Chinese call Outer Manchuria. And this area was taken from the Chinese by the Russians back in like 1860. China has made some very big claims over the last 30 years about how they would like that back, and it's a national insult that they don't have it back. But they never have made a chance to do it, and basically whenever China hinted at it back in 2000, the response from Moscow was complete and utter nuclear retaliation. You step even one Chinese soldier across the Yalu River, we will nuke you into oblivion. That was literally point blank what they said. And that was not parsed out at all. That wasn't diplomatically. That was just literally, we're not putting 100,000 troops on the border. We're just going to nuke you. Well, in that calculation to where China, instead of having to cross an ocean moat to get to Taiwan, what's to stop them from saying, oh, wait, Russia's here. They just sent all of their dudes last year over to Ukraine. There's nothing to stop us. And Ukraine's already in Russia's door. What's to stop us from walking in the door? I'm not saying they're going to do that because I think there's a lot of options for where they can still use the Russians as a cudgel, but it's now an option.
Yeah, and I want to make this clear for anybody who isn't aware as well. So this is not so the history that I understand it with Ukraine is we have had contested regions that have been taken back and forth and gone back and forth. This is actually Russian territory, right? This is not a contested region. This is, in fact, Russia, part of Russia that Ukraine has entered into, right?
Yeah, this is a Russian majority region. It is not even part of what is recognized as Ukraine. This is actually like hardcore core Russia. This is not a joke for them. And what's actually the scary part to me is that from the testimonies of the people that have been, I don't know what word I want to use, but you could say conquered, I guess, or
Sure.
at least like interviewed from the Russians living in this occupied area. They didn't even know the war was going on, and it was right next door.
That's what I've heard is they were pretty underprepared.
Well, I'm not even talking about the soldiers. I'm talking about the civilians. Is that
Oh,
they actually don't, like, as far as they're concerned, the special military operation, which is, you know, in a battle space that's the size of, I'm gonna say Maryland altogether. You know,
Oh,
like
it's really tiny.
the biggest war in European history since World War II, that's had over 500,000 casualties now at this point. They didn't know it was anything to be concerned about. It was supposed to be that far away war that you hear about on the news that's, you know, on the other side of the planet for them. And now it's on their doorstep and they're like, they freaked out a little bit. Never thought this could happen kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious. Like, that's actually the part that concerns me is what is the actual state of the Russian public and what they know about how this war is actually going and what's going on in the first place.
let me
Seems
ask
like
you.
it's bored.
Let me ask you guys, you know, and I'm going to draw this back because I like to keep it kind of current, relevant, right? And this is very relevant. What are y'all's opinions on Kamala Harris's foreign policy versus Donald Trump's foreign policy. Tiberius, I'll pass this to you first, and then I'll let everybody else kind of chime in because this is kind of your bread and butter. Who do you think would be best to handle this Ukrainian conflict? And if you really want to step on this landmine, you can even go into Israel and Palestine, but I'll let you kind of choose that direction.
Yeah, I think this is a terrible question. I'm gonna just be honest about it. I have absolutely no idea. And I actually talked about this a little bit on the previous show. One, when it comes to Kamala Harris, she was an AG in California.
It's Kamala.
I don't look. No, it's Hyena Harris. Okay, let's just get that out of the way first. Okay, Hyena Harris. Anyway, first and foremost, she is an attorney general from California. We have no idea what her diplomatic prowess is and what her goals would be. We don't know if she would separate from the Biden administration or even kick Blinken to the curb and go her own way or whatnot. I have no idea what to expect from her.
That. Actually, she said she would get rid of Blinken.
Okay, she gets rid of him. Who does she bring in? What is her MO's going to be? There's way more questions than I have answers to, and unfortunately, with this particular campaign, their entire campaign seems to be not answering any kind of major question. So that's where I am with them. Let me just finish this out real quick.
Yeah,
there's a debate on Trump because a lot of people say that he's a Putin crony. There's a lot of people who act like he's not a Putin crony. Let me give you the long and the short here. The short is this. I think both sides have an argument because on one hand, at least this has been hinted at to me by like colonels in the DOD, but not has been verified, that when Trump met Putin back in, I think it was 2017, is that Putin was like, hey, look, our countries don't see eye to eye, but, I respect the authoritarian thing that you got going. But let me make it very clear. If we don't have problems, I'm good. But if we do have problems, I'm throwing a nuke at Moscow, and I'm not giving a damn about what happens afterward. And supposedly that's exactly what he said to him. So there's a conversation to be had on the level of, does Russia look at Trump and go, oh shit, we actually don't know what this guy's going to do because Biden literally tells us every line that he's had and actually follows through with it. So they knew that no matter what happened, American forces weren't going to be in Ukraine because Biden said there weren't going to be any American forces in Ukraine. And so far, that's still true. What happens if Trump isn't dicking around when he says something like that? There's a level where maybe being a boisterous, guy that he is, maybe is a deterrent. Here's the other side of the conversation, and this also has a point. We found out from Mark Kelly after, not Mark Kelly. I'm sorry, wrong guy. We found out from General Milley after the election was over that the Trump administration was making plans to withdraw from NATO during the last year of the administration. So, yeah, did the Russians look at Trump and go, oh shit? Or did the Russians look at Trump and go, this is the best guy we could ever have in the White House. We don't need to invade Ukraine because he's going to make the Americans leave NATO, and then NATO isn't a threat anymore. I don't know which one is right.
Power?
Yes. Technically,
Biden could?
Technically, Biden could as well. It's a weird one because at basically this. You are not only the commander-in-chief, so you can just basically say all American forces are leaving Europe or any particular strategic area, but also you're the head diplomat of the United States. NATO is treaty-bound, so there's a level where Congress can bitch a fit about anything that the American president does, but one of the things that you can do as part of being the head diplomat of the United States is you can say, I wish to withdraw from this treaty. I no longer wish to be a part of it. And then you take it to Congress and you ask them to remove you from it. And even if they don't, what happens when the commander-in-chief of the army says, I'm not interested in holding up this treaty anymore? It's a bit of a constitutional crisis because we've never been here, and our constitution isn't really built to handle it, to be completely honest. But there is also that conversation of, is that something that a road we can go down? And I can't answer that for you because there's levels where I said this is a hot take, but I mean it. I think it's just as likely that Trump can withdraw from Ukraine as it is he can ask Congress for a declaration of war on the Russians. And the reason why I think he might actually do that is that I think he's an egotistical narcissist, and the one thing he's not going to put up with is somebody looking better than him. And I don't think he wants the reality of looking at Putin and feeling like he got conned out of looking bad in Ukraine.
Feeling like there's a strong man who's stronger than him.
In a way, if you want to put it in that regard, you can put it exactly in that regard, and that would make some sense, because now that the Russians have demonstrated they aren't going to throw the nukes, or at least not at this, juncture, we now know that the United States military in a direct confrontation with the Russians will absolutely and utterly obliterate them.
Let's pass this back to DH.
Sure.
Where are we going next, buddy?
Yeah. So, let's go ahead. Do y'all have any comments y'all want to make on this topic about Ukraine? Yeah, Demon, you said you wanted to say something about Ukraine?
Oh, not particularly. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know what to do over there. It's it's above my pay grade kind of thing. That's why we intend to have leaders to do this kind of thing, and I would expect them to make it not be above their pay grade. But it seems like I don't know. My question I was going to ask earlier was: do you think that diplomacy and the state of the world, as complex as it is, because we have more countries and more treaties with more communications with more civilizations than we've ever had in human history, this is going to forever complicate the relationships between all of them all at the same time? Because it's not like China just deals with their neighbors and that's pretty much it. They know who the Europeans are and they trade with them, but they don't really largely get involved. I don't know, like centuries ago kind of thing. So do we need to specifically have a group of people that we educate from childhood to be proper leaders in this insane world of mass communication? Shit, do we make a battle school and send the children there?
It's Ender's
I
Game.
feel like we do. What
Go ahead,
what is Mayor Pete Buttigieg except someone who was born from a tube and made to be president from birth? We already do that in a sense. We mold people like Barack Obama and everybody in the Kennedy family, and Mayor Pete Buttigieg. We mold these people to be political figures from the day they're born.
Well, and I think that's by nature of going through not so much the youth of junior high or elementary school or anything like that. I think it's more of when they get into secondary education, when you get into college and the law school and things like that. That's what really molds them.
That's kind of part of the upper class, lower class argument, if you would. The education, the higher education shit that they can. Which is weird because it's overly expensive, yet it's becoming largely worthless because everybody has gotten a degree and found out that I don't actually make a living with it, so I'm going to do something else. And so a lot of people are I made this decision before I left high school. It was I'm not going to college because I'm not going to make it there. I don't do well in this kind of scenario. I need to just get out there and start doing something.
Let's talk let's talk about this one on the after hours. Okay, we'll do the call in on that one because this is a really good topic. I want to really hit on this one before we get to call-ins. We got about 10-15 more minutes, guys. If you want to jump in and do some call-ins, make sure you hit !Discord. Anybody is welcome to come in. Just please be cool, please obey the rules, and please obey the rules of the Discord. So let's jump into the next one. Our next topic is going to be Arlington National Cemetery. I have been studying this thing up, down, left, right, and every which direction. And I will give you my TLDR and I'll let all the other people kind of pass it on. This is my particular topic. If anyone cannot tell by now, I will say that Trump was being extremely disrespectful to those people who gave their lives in that cemetery. And I think that it was not appropriate for him to do the second part of his visit, particularly bringing in
what that was.
Sure. So let's go ahead and talk about
this.
this.
You're gonna have to explain this because I don't know what's going on with that.
Sure, absolutely. So let's go ahead and walk through these events. Basically, long story short, Trump was invited by a couple of the Gold Star families that ended up losing their loved ones in Afghanistan. And so he was invited. He did the laying of the wreath. There are regulations, by the way, on that. Such as not speaking as you are laying the wreath, which lo and behold, I don't believe Trump realized because he was speaking as he was laying the wreath on the stand, first and foremost. There was also a issue with after they laid the wreath. They went to go visit the grave site of those two of that fallen soldier. I believe it was only one. I didn't see two, but there was one fallen soldier. They went to visit that grave site, which was in Section 60. Section 60, for anyone who's unaware, is also the location of all fallen soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq. It is the most recent war. It is a considered hallowed ground. There are regulations in place that forbid any kind of political activities to take place on those grounds because it is so hallowed. And what most people, what kind of brought this to light was there was some drama with the Trump campaign because two campaign aides pushed aside, and I'm using those words quote for quote of how it was described by the I believe it was the military, that two Trump campaign aides pushed the official aside because they wanted to get pictures of Trump with the families. Now, I take particular issue with this because of the fact that, one, these families have been by Trump's side for a very long time. This is not like some Gold Star family that just happened to randomly invite Trump saying, hey, we haven't talked to you ever ago. These are families who were at the RNC. These are families who testified in front of Congress. And so when I look at this, I think this was a political photo op through and through. I think if there was ever a definition of a political photo op, I think that this was one. And I don't believe it should have been done. So that's the TLDR of what happened, and that's my view on it as well. So go ahead, Wes. Yeah.
The thing about this story that I give the least shits about is the fact that an aide of Trump's may have pushed some people aside. To me, it is all about using a photo op at Section 60 of all places of the fucking Arlington graveyard. Like, I've been there twice, and Section 60, just so anybody who's only listening or whatever understands, Section 60 is reserved for the people who died in Iraq and Afghanistan, which means that, like, Arlington National Cemetery also has a spot for people who died in the Civil War. If you go there and you take pictures, you're going to be less harassed and you're going to be doing less harm than if you go to Section 60. Section 60 still has fucking, like, the mothers of the people who died in Iraq and Afghanistan are still visiting Section 60. The children of the people who died in Iraq and Afghanistan are still visiting Section 60. Like, that is a sacred fucking place. And, like, if you're gonna take pictures, do it in the section where the people who died in the Civil War in 1865 are buried. There's not a lot of, like, immediate relatives or anybody who's going to take personal offense to that in those areas, but, like, to do it in Section 60, I know I'm ranting about Section 60, but, like,
It's okay.
even as someone who hates the USA in general and hates the military especially, that is fucking disgusting. Like,
Go ahead, Ty. You look like you're seething over there a little bit. What you got?
Oh, I'm gonna attack this from a different direction. Politics is politics. I don't like this is kind of normally what I expect from anyone who's running a campaign. You're supposed to make certain people look bad. This is trying to remind people of the Afghanistan pullout, which the right was able to beat the living hell out of Biden on, and they're trying to, like, restoke those flames. At the same time, it's political. I'm sorry, we're getting into an election, and he's trying to make himself look good and make Biden look bad, and now Kamala look bad, right? I get that. That doesn't bother me. What actually is the relevant conversation here, not only out of the ethics about, like, how you feel about veterans and the deceased veterans, is did he violate the Hatch Act? And if anyone isn't familiar with this, it is act.
Hasn't he violated the Hatch Act like 12 times? Sorry
Okay,
to cut you
so
off there.
yeah, so there's a long and a short here, but I'll just keep this one short. The Hatch Act has been around since 1939, and it's supposed to be there to make it to where you can't campaign on federal grounds. The general issue with that is that when you are in office, it's kind of a hard thing to do. Remind you that most congressmen or the average congressman needs to raise $20,000 a week to get, have a suitable chance of being reelected in the next campaign. So they're kind of always campaigning, and then more particularly is like you'll have the president who's basically speaking from the podium, and half of what they're doing is at least semi-campaigning, right? So there's a big gray area that the Hatch Acts had, and usually it's given a wide berth. However, I'm hearing that the DoD and Arlington, the people who actually run it, and I can't tell you who that is off the top of my head, are actually asking the Biden administration to press charges for violating the Hatch Act on this one. They think this was a step too far. Do I think that's something they should do? I don't know. I think this is nebulous enough, again, to where the Supreme Court would just be like, freedom of speech, move the fuck along. But you know what? If you're a Democrat and you think that Trump is a bad dude and needs to go, what's another charge? So I think this is just a politics conversation, but that's where I'm going to attack this from, is that do you believe that this is just one more slight that you think he needs to be hit with?
What you got, Demon?
As the acting non-involved political speaker, meaning like I really don't follow much in the way of politics these days. I mean, I post some shit I see on Twitter, but I don't really obsess over it like I used to when I was streaming because I don't need to know anymore.
Right.
So I come across these things. God damn it. I muted it because I fucking was giving the dogs their bones. I keep muting my own stream. If they're watching on Doghouse's stream, then they wouldn't listen to it. Because I can't mute that one right now. Anyway, so fixed. Where was I going? Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I heard something about it, and largely, like, they're complaining that he did something at a cemetery. I really don't care. Like, did he hurt anybody? No. Did he break any obvious laws? Like, did he, I don't know, shoot somebody? No. I don't really care what's going on right now because I know it's the middle of political season. Everybody's saying all sorts of absurd things to try and get elected. So I just drown out the noise, keep going to work, and just generally be like, so anybody said anything insane lately? And check that like once a week.
Well, let me put it.
Listen to that. Oh, that's crazy too. Oh my.
Yeah, I'll let Wes go ahead. Wes,
So
what you
I
got?
think
Oh,
largely
sorry.
for the regular voter, it's a non-issue. Is the better way of putting it. Like, I don't think most people give a shit or even know about it.
Oh,
The
they
only
know
thing
about
that-
it. It's all well. I'm living in Twitter world, so maybe I'm just like, okay, well,
That's
on
what I mean.
Twitter world, everybody knows about it, but I don't know about outside of that. Depends
My
on who's
coworkers
typing.
have never mentioned it. We haven't talked about it. Even Jason, who is the Democrat that loves to throw things at Trump all the time, he hadn't brought it up. They don't care.
Go ahead, Wes. What were you gonna say?
The only thing I was gonna say is that, like, when you said some cemetery or whatever, like, I would completely agree, but this is Arlington National Cemetery. Like, if you've ever been there, it is a huge deal. It is
I've
one
been
of the most sacred places in the country. Like,
Wait,
you
wait.
feel it as soon as you step into it. You're just like, these are rows upon rows upon rows of unnamed, mostly American soldiers. Like, it has a completely different feel to any other cemetery. It's
I
not.
want to
just
ask you more
some
about that
cemetery.
later, Wes. Like,
Yeah,
about your feelings about the cemetery, and because it's not for right now. I don't think it's not the
Okay, yeah.
Trump
So
part of it.
So this is the one thing I wanted to hit on, and I'll kind of start winding this down a little bit. This is something that kind of really frustrated me. There was someone in that picture whose family was not there to represent themselves, and it was the person who was buried right next to that individual. They did not blur out that person's name. That individual's gravestone was in clear sight. How did that person's family feel? That's my
I didn't
question.
know that.
And the even worse, now I'm not gonna nitpick this, but it is a really bad optics look. Apparently, and I don't know if this has been confirmed, but you can see one of the family members from that Gold Star family actually lay a phone on top of that individual's gravestone. Okay. Yeah, optically looks so bad. And I would even further ask people, JD Vance in the donut shop said, hey guys, don't show this person's face. Let me ask you, why did Donald Trump not sit there and go, hey guys, this is a solemn moment. I don't want anybody here except for the families. Can you please step away? Why did he not say that? Why was it that two Trump campaign aides who were looking to take photographs, two Trump campaign aides, not anybody, this wasn't MSNBC, two Trump campaign aides sit there and push aside an official who was trying to let them know about taking pictures in this particular section? This has photo op written all
I mean,
over it.
I guess the theoretic question is, did they fire him?
That's
Like,
the
was
great
it
question.
overly? Could it possibly just be as a case of overly zealous aides that are like, I have to do this, or was it Trump
Well,
directly
I'm
instructing? them?
glad
Would be the
you
only
said
question.
Who
this.
cares?
I'm glad
Well,
you
I mean, that's
asked
the
this.
question. Is it directly Trump's fault because he's like, no, you have to get this done. I don't care what those officials say, or if it's just like he had no idea. He was just going over there, and then people are following
Demon,
him because they're
I've
part of
got
the
your
campaign
answer.
and they do all
I've
those
got-
decisions.
I've got your
That's
answer.
not the question.
I got your
Yeah.
answer. Trump
good.
addressed this, and he said, "Oh, I had no idea about it. I had no idea this happened. It may have been the family members that took the pictures. I don't know." And kid you not, that is an actual. You can go look at the video. Trump tried to push this off on the family members. And this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let anybody kind of fill in and say the last word that they want. I want people to remember there were 13 families that were affected by this Afghanistan withdrawal. Guess how many people showed up to that memorial that were invited? Two family members. We still have not heard from every single one of these family members of how they feel. And I want you to keep in mind who these particular family members are that have been invited to this gravesite. There is a mother-in-law, there's an aunt, there's like a niece, there's all these different people, but there's not a mother, there's not a father. Now, I don't know all their particular reasons for that, okay? I'm not going to sit there and ascribe some kind of negative connotation because of that. But I do find it peculiar of why is there not other direct family that has kind of stepped up? It's always these same figures who have always been a very loudspeaker for the Trump administration. So their feelings are valid. Don't get me wrong. The mother-in-law's feelings are valid. The aunt's feelings are valid. But I think it's peculiar that we have only seen a select few kind of step up and speak about this particular topic. Anybody got any
They
comments
just don't
on
want the
that?
attention. Maybe
It's
they don't
possible.
care. They're just like, whatever. Like, they're just at the gravesite.
It's
Like,
possible.
if you were at,
Yeah, but
if you were at
that-
where my mom was buried, and you guys were taking pictures, and Kamala Harris was doing something there because of, I don't know why she would be.
It's
I mean,
Kamala.
like, she's
Kamala.
Oh my God, dude, shut up.
anyway. Like, she's in a military gravesite because my dad was military. He was in Vietnam. So anyway, I mean, her picture might be there, and I don't care, honestly. Like,
Okay.
I mean,
as the I just
you
don't-
might not care, but like that's a sense of privacy that they've come to respect and expect. Like,
Well, I don't. That's the
For-
thing. I don't think a cemetery is a sense of privacy. It's a cemetery. The whole idea is
No,
there's a marker
no, no,
here to
no,
be like,
again-
look at it and remember me.
again, if you say it's a cemetery, then you're missing out on the point of Arlington National Cemetery entirely. It is
well,
a
Okay, that would be
different
what
type
I'm
of
going to discuss with
cemetery.
you after
Yeah.
we.
Let's
finish.
let's go ahead and do this.
I want to hear
Go
whatever
ahead,
you're
Les.
thinking about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no,
let,
that's all.
I want to say one thing too. This is actually the last thing I'll say on this. As I saw some commentary about Kamala Harris being invited to this and she turned it down. I want you guys to remember about a certain event that took place with JD Vance on a tarmac. Most may forget about this. JD Vance saw an opportunity to go to Kamala Harris's plane and say, meet the press. He went out in front of the press and said, "Hey guys, I just came here to meet Kamala Harris. I don't know why she's not coming down from the plane, but I'm here. I'll speak to you guys." Now, I want you guys to think about this. You want to put Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in the same room together and think that you're going to have some kind of production conversation. You're going to have a productive conversation. You think Donald Trump is going to sit there and just go, "Okay, hi Kamala, how are you doing?" You're absolutely insane. Anybody who thinks that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris should have been in the same room together are losing their minds. Okay, that would have been
That's why we need to see it.
It would have been an absolute, like, you want to talk about taking the site away from the families and the loved ones who lost. That will absolutely do it. Them two.
Oh, you mean in Arlington? I thought you were talking about it in like a debate or something. Somewhere I lost the
No,
fact
no,
that you were
no.
talking about
The
Arlington
issue
still.
is a lot of people have been saying that Kamala Harris was allegedly invited. Okay.
Yeah, to go there, and she didn't want to
Exactly.
cause a scene because they would both be there. And what would it be, like a madhouse? I mean, that's up to
Exactly.
them
Well, but that's the
and their
thing is, okay,
followers.
Kamala Harris could be genuine. She could show up. I'll be honest with you. I don't trust Donald Trump or JD Vance does not sit there and try to make a photo op out of that. Okay. If Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are in the same room, someone's going to make something political. Whether it is Kamala Harris or whether it is Trump, I lean more towards Trump making it more
Well, I mean,
ludicrous
that's
for
just
himself.
politicians being politicians. Why are we surprised?
But at the site of Arlington, that's the problem.
I-
Is they wanted them at the site of Arlington, and the point of that wreath ceremony was to try to unify, or not unify, but try to memorialize those who lost their lives. So it would
Yeah.
take away from that memorialization.
More people have Arlington on their mind today than previously have lately because it was mentioned and Trump was mentioned.
Yeah. So guys, this is where we wrap up the political compass. And it was a little great. I look, I know I got heated on this one, but that's because it's I look, I love our troops. Okay. When we start bringing politics into it, I get a little heated. So this is the political compass, guys. I want to thank everyone who has watched this show take place so far. We do this every Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is the same cast of people that are coming on here. We are missing our friendly liberal Sansel, although I kind of looked like a liberal, so, take it for what it's worth. But anyways, guys, we do this every Saturday. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. We are going to be doing this, all that other stuff. So, hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I hope to see you soon. So, guys, now we're going to go to Twitch call-ins. If any of y'all want to jump in, then we're just going to kind of shoot the crap, shoot the shit. We're going to continue to do this. There's a lot that we can learn from this, but at this point forward, it is now considered open call-ins. So if you want to jump in, let me go ahead into !Discord.
So
There we go.
now I can ask Wes.
Yeah. what's
Go
up?
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So you're an atheist, right?
Yeah.
So why does a cemetery mean anything?
Because they sacrificed their lives. It doesn't matter whether they went up or down or nowhere at
Yeah.
all. They sacrificed their lives for something that they believed in. So Arlington means a lot. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a very emotionally charged place, but I don't understand how. I don't understand why you'd have reverence for the dead if when we die nothing happens. Like that's the thing. It's weird
It's
because like, what's the point of remembering if it's not going to matter?
it's not so much like a reverence for the dead, I guess. I guess it's more of like
Like,
a
If I
reverence.
I would assume that when I'm dead, I'm not going to care what happens to my body. Like, I don't. If I'm not in it, and it's not, I'm not feeling pain. Like there's not like you go to some sort of consciousness that you can still feel your body rotting in the ground. No thanks. But
Well,
assuming that
but
doesn't happen.
I'm an atheist, but like I mourn my father. Like,
Yeah.
I still like
Well. What do you mean mourn your father still?
my dad passed a few years ago,
Right.
and so like I still like cry when I think about it. Like I still mourn for like what he
Hmm.
gave up and like what still could have been of his life if things were to go differently. Like
Yeah.
I still mourn him as a person. And like I can feel the same way about those soldiers. Like there's so many 20-year-olds that gave their lives for our country. And even though like I think that a lot of times what our country was doing, like, obviously I'm cool with like World War II, but like, in the Civil War and in Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan, like I am explicitly against what our nation was doing, but I don't hold that against the individual soldiers who thought that it was on them to make things better. Because, like, think of the environment that we had in 2002, like shortly after September 11th, and like everybody was ready and willing to sign up to fight for their country.
Yeah.
And then, like, 20 years later, we look back and we're like, oh, yeah, well, probably shouldn't have done that. And it's
So
like,
is it more of you? Are you more upset by a wasted life, if you will? Like the life was cut short because of, is there a special attachment to that?
I wouldn't say wasted.
Okay.
They did what they thought was
Right.
right, and like there's something beautiful in that. And like, even if I think that they were misguided, or that, like, the American military industrial complex led them to do something because of like student debt loans that I think they should not have engaged with, I don't blame them for that. I believe that they know that they were doing the right thing. And even though I can like sit here and armchair it from like a third person perspective and be like, huh, you were part of the machine, dumbass. They expected you to get student loans or sign up to fight brown people. Like, it's a privileged take, and I'm a third person. So like, I don't blame them for that. I believe they were doing what they thought was right.
Yeah. It's odd. I don't know, because I've been trying to understand. One of the things I've been studying a shitload of is the relationship between serotonin, dopamine, emotions, and like how to process emotions, how to make them not just linger in your head all day.
Demon tried to give me a video, y'all. Let me tell
Oh
you
my god,
something.
you still haven't watched it?
I tried many times, but the problem is like no wait, I did watch it. But the
Yeah, you
problem
did.
is I did. But the problem is like I was working when you sent that to me.
Yeah.
You're on like some next theological, like philosophical, whatever you want to call it, like kick.
Yeah, I'm on
And
that journey, that's for sure.
I'm like sitting here trying to follow this path, and I'm like, okay, so the dopamine triggers this particular sensor in the brain, and then this brain kicks here. I'm like, okay, wait, I'm trying to follow this path, but I'm like also trying to work. So I couldn't do it, but I liked it because it also helped me. I was like, this dopamine thing's pretty
It
cool, chasing this thing and everything. But
Well, yeah, it's just it's like everything. It needs to be balanced. Like it's fine. You want that quote unquote, dopamine drive because
yeah,
it's literally what helps you get up and do things. But you also don't want it to be the only driving thing because what happens then is that's all you can do and you can't control what it focuses on. And so that's what I found out was happening. It's basically I've had to figure out how to re-engage my serotonin system through what I eat and what I'm exercise and all this other shit and mental discipline on top of trying to cut the dopamine peaks and valleys and help it fucking find a center line so that way I can find a place that I'm like, this is normal. Like
yeah.
this is an average day. I wake up, everything's fine, nothing's going on. I take my dogs for a walk. Like I have so many I'm sure I have ADHD in the sense that my dad has had it, and part of that video that we were talking about earlier was talking about how it's hereditary. And so I've just never gotten diagnosed for it because, like most people that supposedly have it, they'll be like, yeah, I just happen to check all the boxes. It's just a weird coincidence. Like, it's just all my fault for some reason. And that's one of the things. But anyway, so I've been working a whole lot on that and understanding how all that works. And at this point, I've been looking at it so much and learning so much about it that I can start telling people's motivations and when they start getting really frustrated because what they want to do doesn't match up with what their dopamine system wants to do, and they start getting really mad.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys, because now we're in the call-in section, and as far as I'm concerned, the political compass has been concluded, but we're still obviously doing the call-in. So if anybody wants to jump in, they're more than welcome to.
Lord.
Let me ask you, do y'all guys think that, and I'm receptive to the audience as well, I kind of like if I could find like a little pop-up
Can you
button.
just resub?
Do what?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thanks for letting me know that somebody subbed to you, Demon, but nobody wants to sub to
No,
your
I just
boy,
saw
the
this thing
Doghouse.
just went across my thing. Dog, don't beat yourself up, bud.
It's okay. I'm TikTok famous. Don't worry, buddy. Oh, now you've got a thing going across your screen too. Rub it
All right.
in, Demon. Thank you. Listen, guys, I'm loving this.
I specifically wrote it on the title, didn't I? Don't say no. I wrote it in the chat in Discord. Anyway,
Sorry, Demons loved. I get it. No, I'm kidding, guys. Look, I'm thinking about like when we do an agreement, having some kind of thing where like I hit a button and it pops up like world peace or something. Man, I would love something like that. And I think the format,
Yes.
it was a little good. We got some things to work on, but for what I want to hit on was the grave thing. To me, I just hold it like I'm in the same kind of boat as Wes. My grandfather is buried in a national cemetery, and for me, it goes to the genuineness of that particular candidate. And so to see that candidate kind of make that visitation about himself and not about that particular person, that's what I kind of take offense to. That's why it's like you're taking that moment away from that particular soldier and you're doing it for selfish reasons, and that's where I kind of don't like.
If
So
you walk into a national cemetery and you don't feel and understand the solemnity of that place, then there's something deeply un-American about it. And I think that's what strikes people. Like, if you've ever been to Arlington National Cemetery or a place like that, then you know how solemn and respectful it is. And if you can walk into that place and not pick up on that, just it just screams like un-American. What's going on?
yeah, what's up, Cancel? Cancel has jumped in. What is your piece, Cancel? What do you come and talk about? What do you want to talk about, buddy?
Not too much to say directly. I just figured I'd hop in because I enjoyed a couple of the topics you guys were talking about.
All right.
For the price gouging one specifically, I just wanted to like reinforce that when it comes to Kamala Harris's plans, she has not come out for price controls as far as we know. Where people came out and were like, no, we didn't mean it. We swear. Just price gouging, which we have on the books in red states as well already for laws. It'll basically require companies to explain why they raise their prices a certain amount, and as long as they can give a good reason, if it's the supply chain, then we forget about it. If that ever gets passed.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, for me, my view on it is that I just think that it's overstating what I've done, and a lot of people are like, and I'll kind of address this elephant in the room about where I stand on these politics. This is where I will make my statement because a lot of people have been seeing what I've been posting on Twitter. And if you've been following me on TikTok, you're probably going like, oh my God, Doghouse is voting for Kamala Harris. Let me explain something to you guys real quick. If Trump wants to win this election, okay, stop talking about crowd sizes, stop talking about shit that doesn't matter, and start talking about what is putting food on people's plates. The reason why Kamala Harris is doing so well is because she's attacking economic issues, flat out. I think if you look at like the number one issue to most Americans that are voting, it's the economy. And I think that is one of the reasons why Kamala Harris has done so well. And so for me, when I look at like price gouging, I think that there is a reasonable argument that could be made that this is probably a decent policy. And one of the reasons why I think that Kamala Harris isn't so bad is because I think that her weakness is why I'm not too worried. Would I rather have Trump in, who I know is going to do what he says he's going to do and potentially try to bend those rules? Or would I rather have Kamala Harris, who is just another politician, come in and maybe milk toast down a little bit of what she has said? So like, for example, the price gouging, it sounds scary at surface level, but what we would end up getting is a watered down version of that. And
we hope that we get a watered down version and that it doesn't actually come that extreme. Anyway, I would like to go ahead and take this opportunity because I need to go because I only have so much longer before the dogs become unruly. And I want to spend some time with my cat.
Man. Absolutely, man. I appreciate you jumping in. Later, Damon. I appreciate you jumping in.
To you, Damon.
It was. We can talk later about that other topic. I want to discuss that with you in the future.
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Hit me up, man.
All right, bye.
Peace.
So, on a medicines, I caught a couple random, like not Trumpers, but some center right people in 2020 by saying Biden was going to be weak. It's honestly a pretty solid argument for the left to be like, hey guys, Kamala's not going to be, she's not actually going to be the comrade, right? Like someone coming from the far left and saying she ain't going to do what I want. It's a really good selling point, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think she has I think she has become far more moderate than she may have been initially.
Right.
I think what I've seen is a lot of attacks that have come at her for her particular policy stances are really coming from where she stood on, like, for example, the Green New Deal, or maybe some kind of other bill that she really signed on to. I will tell you that the assault weapons ban is a really hard one, but she seems to have kind of strayed away from that. Not haven't seen too much, but it seems like she kind of strayed away from that one a little bit.
Bro,
Yeah,
she came at Biden when they were running in the primaries in 2020. She came at Biden from every point on the left. She was objectively left in almost every regard, and
Yeah.
now she's pushing Biden from the right. Like she's right of Biden in almost every regard. Like
Yeah.
there's not much I've seen from her that's like really anything near left of what she used to.
Ty, I want to get your opinion on here, man. What do you think about the state of our election cycle right now and how it's going, man?
I feel like I'm in hell.
You're like, I'm stuck with 3 lefties right now and I hate it.
No. Like, all right, that's not the problem I have. Although, like, figuring out where Kamala is versus Biden is an interesting exercise. I just don't have enough data. Well, dude, I'm gonna be real. I've been thinking about it. I'm officially gonna say it now. I looked at the roster for who are going to be on my election cycle for this November, and I've decided to stay the fuck home. And I think you all know, or at least I know you know, that I really care about politics. I'm not the type to stay home. I'm very much the type that's like, hey, if it's the lesser two evils, that's fine. But I mean, I've been
You're
over
not
with.
gonna vote down ballot?
Oh, I never do. I've always had purple tickets. It's just how purple do I have? 2020 was probably the reddest ticket I ever had. 2022 was pretty blue. I think 2016 was the bluest ticket I ever had. But I was shaping up to have a pretty blue ticket this year, but then I'm gonna be real. There's a lot of shit that's gone mainstream within both political parties that I'm not happy about. So let me just tag a couple of them real quick. I absolutely despise the election stolen narrative. Like literally, if you believe the opposing party if the opposing party actually put together a conspiracy in multiple states requiring thousands of people to overturn an election by cheating, that's not a Cassius Belli for sitting there like a little bitch. You throw a civil war if that's actually what happened. And yet this motherfucker has, not been able to prove it in court at all. Even after all these indictments and investigations and all this shit, everything's been tossed out, and it still is being tossed out. And then 2, you're telling me you're running for election again? What's to stop them from cheating again? So either he's full of shit, or he's absolutely incompetent. Either which way, I'm past due on this shit. And then of course there's all the other stuff that comes with that. The apologia for J6. There is just the blatant excusing of overly bad behavior across the board. And then this gets to the Democrats. The rest ticket I had was in 2020 because of the apologia for the summer of riots. And basically Chaz Chop is no big deal. I don't know where in the fuck people get off being pro-Palestine, but that shit can burn in hell.
Well, hold on. Hey, I'm gonna let you know right now, Tiberius. I'm gonna interrupt you. Wes, I'm not trying to throw Wes out there. Wes can say what he wants. Wes can say what he wants to say, but I'll put it this way: Wes has a very strong opinion on that particular topic. So I'm just saying, tread very carefully.
I'm not gonna say shit because, as
you.
you know, I don't want to come onto the show to like get into debates with people. That is one of those topics that I will just say, we absolutely disagree. Fuck you. And free Palestine. And go on with whatever you were saying.
Yeah, no problem. yeah, and like if it ever gets to the point where you need to hash it out, fine. But yeah, like if people are gonna make that argument from the Democrats, and while the DNC has been pretty good at putting that shit in a box, I was really proud of Kamala just a week or two ago, where she she was hearing that stuff in the audience, and she's like, if you want Donald Trump to win, that's the best way to do it. She's dead right. Like that shit is so disgusting to the general American public because it's so anti-American. It's ridiculous. But you know what? If Democrats actively want to engage that, not immediately eject anyone who believes that out of the party, that's hard to deal with. That's really hard to look at. And what's really kind of pissed me off is that I've had to hear about how you're going to defend democracy and defend freedom and all this shit. And then your primary contender, steps the fuck out, and you just put up a new person within a week instead of having a primary. It's like, all right, okay, the French organized a snap election in 3 fucking weeks, and you're telling me you guys can't be bothered? The people who love democracy and literally are named the Democratic Party can't put together a primary? I can't do this shit. It's so ridiculous.
I got keep it real. This is completely realistic world we live in now. Do you trust the Democratic Party as it stands right now to do a snap election in 3 weeks? Because I fucking wouldn't.
No,
I would give
a great thing. It doesn't sound good from my side, but I would not have trusted it.
I would say they need to at least give themselves a good 6 to 8 weeks. But if they're actually gonna if you're gonna make the claims, I want you to walk the fucking walk. And the issue is that when it comes to both political parties, they've been really good at being sniving little hypocrites, and I'm kind of fucking over it. I really am. It's like, all right, cool. I understand when principles come in conflict with each other. I understand where it's like, hey, I believe in freedom and individuality or liberty or any of that shit. But you can't have any of those things if you have no semblance of security. Sometimes you have to give up some of your freedoms to have security, and sometimes to have freedoms, you have to have some security so you can go about your lives and not worry about getting shot in the face. It's just sometimes that isn't. Oh, people have this stupid ass idea that sometimes it's at no matter what point when you give up your freedoms, we're all lesser for it. Sorry, no, I don't believe that shit. Sometimes when you give up a little bit of freedoms, you get actually safer for it, and you can go about your life unmolested from a bunch of stupid ass shit that people can subject you to.
Right. And so how I would reply to that would be, it would be better freedom. It would be cooler if my party was competent enough to have done a snap election. We held another quick primary effectively, and maybe we would end up getting a ticket that was like Shapiro Walls or something, right? That'd be cool. I'd be for that. I wouldn't trust that it could happen. So giving up a little bit of party freedom, that we have, and instead having it be the current sitting vice president seems to have worked for the Democrats. Now we can go to a general election. Democracy can truly decide between one of the two people that will be out for the major parties. And if Kamala wins, she won through democracy. Sure, she didn't win her party primary, but party primaries are a fake thing based on corporations like the DNC and the RNC. They are not part of our Constitution.
Oh, and electoralism isn't a fake thing that we made up, and we're going to use...
Yeah, to me, I think it's just rich when you have like the right going, this is anti-democratic. I'm like, do we want to talk about the fake electors? I'm just like, I think that it's really interesting to me when we get into the conversation about like the right levying certain criticisms. Now, I'm willing to sit here and say, fine, it was an anti-democratic process by which Kamala Harris was, made the nominee, but she wasn't.
She was anointed. She was anointed.
Exactly. If there was any kind of contested thing, it could have been contested at the actual DNC.
Right.
Yo, we've got a Dylan Burns in chat. Dylan, buddy, if you want to jump in, my man, you're more than welcome. This is the Hippy Dippy Takeover show. So, but it's very friendly. It's very friendly to any previous Hippy Dippy guests or Hippy Dippy light guests. But no, yeah, if you want to call it anti-democratic, call it anti-democratic. That's fine. But I don't want to hear those criticisms coming from the right. I think it's hollow and very, empty. I just don't
look.
Yeah.
No, there's a level where I get that. Like the both sides really don't have a lot of room to throw any criticisms without looking like a bunch of jackasses. So I get it. Like my general issue is that I just want some semblance of consistency. It's like you tell me, like tell me that you actually care about a certain thing, and then actually hold to it for give it a year. Like, can anyone make a year of actually saying we believe in X without looking like a bunch of jackasses? I swear to God, in the last 4 years,
give me a couple examples of things that have not lasted for a year.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a couple examples that just come off my head as like complete inconsistency.
Sure.
From the right, I have heard, and just in this presidential term, "My body, my choice," which
Oh,
is like one of the most ridiculous things I have ever heard from the right in my life.
I worked at Planned Parenthood, and that phrase has been around since the 1970s.
Yeah, but it's coming from the right because of vaccinations.
oh,
Okay,
I see what
so-
you're saying.
It's like, wait, what? We don't believe this shit. What are you doing? Like, you're actively chanting the talking point of the left because you want to take your personal initiative now? Like,
no, that's
what the f-
co-opting. That's co-opting the term of the oppressed. That's something that people do all the time. Like
this is
co-opting the terms of the oppressed is literally one of the best ways to take pressure and knowledge off of the oppressed people. That's why, like, I'm not going to get into Israel.
It's fine. I might
But,
be.
like, there is a very similar thing happening somewhere in the world. Hint, hint.
Well, you know, sometimes you when you fuck yourself, you have to reap the repercussions for what you sow.
Oh, okay. All right, look. So we're gonna get off this topic real quicker than the salesman that always knocks at my door. We're gonna get away from this really quickly. Which, by the way, these salesmen are really sneaky. Okay, they came to my house and my wife signed the contract. She's like, "What? I gave them my credit card information. Like he said, I was gonna be good for one." I'm like, "Yeah, okay. That's a whole nother issue. Okay, let me tell you." But no, to me, I think I'm gonna bring this right back to where our election cycle is. I want to mention this. This is one reason why I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I'm afraid to say it, but I'm gonna say it. I mildly support Kamala Harris for this. Okay. Here's my issue. Donald Trump's campaign has been nothing but exiling. You don't support him, you're out. I have seen many Republicans come out and say, look, I'm not in favor of Donald Trump, but I don't really like Kamala Harris because of obviously they're a Republican House or Senator or whatever, and they can't necessarily support Kamala Harris because then they won't have an election, they won't have a seat where they work. Okay, so they can't really come out and say I support Kamala Harris. Okay, we've seen a few kind of people come out. I know Pondering Politics was at the DNC and did a few interviews with I think Jim Walsh and a few other people. So shout out to Pondering Politics. There are a few good Republicans still out there, but look. I want people to understand that there is a such thing in some states. Not all states are the same. So, check with your Secretary of State to kind of reference this. There is a such thing where you can vote for the president on one hand and vote for your House and your Senate on another way. You can split your ticket. That is an option. And I think, and Ty, you can chime in. Anybody else can chime in on this. I think what we're going to see is this is my prediction early on. We're going to see a Kamala Harris win. Okay. This is my prediction as of August 31st. Let the record reflect. It could change at any minute. We still have a Trump sentencing coming up. Please don't forget about that because that is huge, or as Trump would say, huge. Okay? It's big.
Motherfucker.
We still have that going on, but I predict that we're going to see a Kamala Harris presidency with a split Congress. That's what I predict we're going to see. We'll see if I'm right or wrong in that prediction. But yeah, this is why, like I said, I think I support Kamala Harris for these particular reasons. But go ahead.
So I'm going to real quick hop in before Ty, just because something interesting happened in my state back in 2020. In Pennsylvania, you used to be able to hit a button on the voting machine that said straight ticket Democrat, straight ticket Republican, right? Like you could go up to your voting and you could just click one button and it would fill it out for you. How lazy, how awesome. They got rid of that because it's kind of stupid. Like you should probably click each vote, right?
Well.
Well.
If it isn't
I'll
our
let Dylan talk.
Ukrainian comrade himself. What's up, Dylan? How you doing, buddy?
Hello, Tavarish. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, fellow comrade. I'm doing good. What's up, buddy? How you been, man?
I've been good. I've been busy. I've been keeping busy. I'm back in the States. I'm leaving back for Ukraine tomorrow. But
man.
I'm spending tonight just working on my footage, working on my scripts. I'm editing some footage from the Kharkiv front from a mortar crew I embedded with. I want to release this early next month.
Nice, man. I'll say this, not to rub your ego too much here, but man, I will say there's many people that I've seen come and go through Twitch, and you're one of the few people that I've seen actually put boots on the ground and actually do reporting. So kudos to that, man. But what's your take on the election and the fact that your friendly comrade over here, the Doghouse, has now decided to throw a little bit of support behind Kamala over here? What do you think? Remember, mind you,
Look,
I want
Look,
people.
I want to thank you. I want you to know that Uncle Joe here thanks Grandpa Joe thanks you. The whole Kamala team, the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Bernie Sanders, AOC, everyone thanks you. And we welcome you into the left-wing, leftist, commie, Marxist, Pol Potist, Leninist movement. Welcome.
Let me tell you guys something too. If you're not aware, me and Dylan had it. I think you removed it. I was trying to look for it. We had a very heated conversation about Trump's Muslim ban a long time ago.
Yes, we did.
And there's something I realized is that I used to kind of pivot and say, well, I think you need to take Trump you have to decipher Trump. And in hindsight, I think that you kind of somewhat have to take him for what take him at his word. And I think that that's one thing is after seeing in 2020 what happened there, seeing how MAGA has become full cult-like and exiling people, this is just not something I want to be a part of. And the thing is being in center right, well, what is my vote going to be for? Well, I'm not voting for JFK, RFK Jr. I'm not going to vote for RFK Jr. because now he's running alongside Trump. And that's something that, by the way, really irritates me on my little soapbox here. I've noticed there's been a weird Trump loyalist thing where like RFK Jr. has supported Trump and now all of a sudden they want to make him like the health minister. And I'm like, the dude takes freaking steroids. He takes TRT. And now like all of a sudden, because he's as a jacked 60-year-old, he somehow knows way more about health than our current health administrator. It's insane. I'll be right back. I'll let my dog out.
Yeah, I've been hearing
People
that,
forget RFK called Kamala Harris's team and tried to get a cabinet position. People don't know that. It's crazy. But he was like shopping back and forth, calling both campaigns, trying to get positions. He doesn't have like a strong committed principle to either team. It's 100% trying to forward the RFK brand, the RFK image, and the RFK name. This is more a personal project for him more than something built on political principle. If it was, you wouldn't say, hey, I'm willing to work with you, Kamala Harris, put me in your cabinet and I'll endorse you. And then say the next day, hey, Donald Trump, somebody of every exact opposite value, I am willing to work for you and endorse you. That's selling yourself. He's selling himself. He's a product, not a candidate.
And I think that's super frustrating, right? And Ty, you can chime in on this because you're big into the electoral politics thing. The frustration I have is that no independent candidate that I can recall in recent memory has gone in as a true independent candidate, not vying for a spot in some one or the other's cabinet. It feels like every time we've seen an independent candidate pop up, they seem to kind of do it as more of a sales pitch than an actual like viable candidacy.
Unless you're Cornel West and your sales pitch sucks.
I'll put it this way: it's usually either one of two things. And I don't even think the pitch of trying to get into a cabinet is usually even the norm. What it usually is that you're trying to grab onto one of the like inactive rails and trying to mainstream it to where it's like you go third party and you're saying, hey, like the two big parties are not putting up with this issue. I'm bringing it to the American people. And 9 times out of 10, if it's something that actually catches any kind of fire, one of the major political parties will make it mainstream, induct it, and that issue dies for that particular fringe because it's inducted into the two-party system. The other side of it is that it's an open sabotage, where you have somebody say, I'm running because this guy isn't good enough, and I'm just going to steal votes. And I was kind of surprised there's not been a single Republican run against Trump that's like the old school Republicans, where he's just like, hey, I'm going to make sure Trump doesn't win. I'm just going to steal enough votes to where, we make sure that, Kamala or the Democrats win in key swing states.
See,
Because that could happen.
Someone might say, like, Well, Nikki Haley, she had, if you looked into the late primary, she had people after dropping out still turning out to vote in Republican primaries in significant number. And when I say significant number, I don't mean, 20,000. I'm talking 100,000 people here, 150,000, 250,000 in swing states. In swing states after she dropped out. Before she dropped out, the numbers were even better, of course. This was somebody who was slamming Trump, hammering Trump, going after Trump. And so there was a significant amount of the party who was voting for her because A, they had a distaste for Trump, or B, they thought Trump would sink the party. Because you could like Trump and still think he's going to sink the party because he's a maniac. But the problem is, Donald Trump would never work with her. He would never accept her as a VP. And so the best thing she can do is lie low until later. She can't like run against it. She'd destroy herself. And so that's why she went from I'm not going to endorse Trump to I'm going to endorse Trump, because she's trying to be the people after Trump. She wants to say, like she said on the campaign trail, if Donald Trump's the nominee, Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States before Biden dropped out. She wants to come at here 4 years from now, say, look at me. I'm looking into the crystal ball. I saw this shit. You guys made a mess of it. I warned you to the last second, but I didn't drop the flag. I stayed on the team. I endorsed Trump at the RNC. I stayed with the team. If she wouldn't stay with the team, then she couldn't be the standard bearer once Trump's gone. I think she's trying to clear a pathway for a post-Trump Haley section of the party, or post-Trump Haley resurgence. But that can't happen until after. If she was to like stand against him, then Republicans wouldn't trust her. She would see her as not a team player, and that she undercut them. And then when people say, why did we lose? Some people might say Haley instead of Trumpism, when Trumpism needs to be the thing that is soundly defeated in this election. Not there can't be any excuses.
I think that Trumpism, and I've pondered this kind of idea, I think Trumpism doesn't have very much longer. I think they are eating their own, and they're exiling far too many people that they really need critical support from. I've seen a lot of Republicans come out against Trump. I don't see them really drawing in more people. I think that Trumpism has probably maybe a good couple election cycles.
That's not fair. That's not fair. JD Vance is going to bring in a lot of the youth female vote.
Yeah. Remember that little tweet too? Oh, that was great.
The worst pick. He couldn't have picked anyone worse. Number one in loyalty, last place in likability, favorability. His numbers, every week I check his numbers, they get worse. I don't know how, but every week I check his numbers, they get worse. And I go look at Tim Walz's numbers, every week they get better. And not only do they get better generally, they get better in swing states. So it's as if Kamala made the best play and he made the worst play when he thought he was ahead at the convention. And so it's literally like a rabbit in the hare situation.
I criticized the pick for Walz because I was like, oh man, like Shapiro was like
moderate. I was so
moderate.
happy with the Walz pick.
I thought Shapiro was more moderate. I thought he came out
because Walz is my type of Democrat, to be clear.
Yeah, but I think like when I saw Shapiro, I kind of viewed him as like kind of that bridge between those Republicans that were really trying to kind of like figure out a home. And so I thought Shapiro would be that good pick, but it turns out, and I see now why she picked Walz. Walz's likability is through the roof. He reminds you of that neighborhood dad that you would go over and have pizza with, and be like, hey, come on in. Let me have some pizza, man. Let me tell you how to throw the football around once or twice. JD Vance reminds me of that guy that had been like focused so intensely on his law career. He's like that finance bro that's like super cringy. That's like, you don't know how to speak to someone. Like the donut shop video was so bad. And then
so bad.
Have you seen the one where Walz walked in the donut shop? Like right
after? I saw it. I watched it on stream.
Yes.
I was saying like, I used it as my daily Vance update. I was like, hey guys, let's go check it with JD Vance. Let's go see what he's doing to help Trump win the White House. And I just played the video with no commentary.
It's so hard to watch. And he's like, hey guys, cut this out. Don't do this. Like cut this.
Yeah,
like,
no, she doesn't want to be seen with me. Yes or no? Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh. And then Walz walks in. Everybody's like, Walz, what's going on? And they're super excited. I'm like, oh.
All right, I'm going to let you all fanboy for the Democrats. It's 9 o'clock
wait,
here.
One more. Oh, sorry. Continue. I didn't know you were leaving. I thought you were
I'm just going to bounce out. Doghouse, thanks for inviting me. Dylan Burns, good to see you, and please stay safe.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, God bless, man. Anyway, you all take care. I'll catch you all next time, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.
All
Have a
right,
good
see
night.
you, buddy. Trying to add this guy to the
So real
room.
quick, this is my most petty point on the donut shop thing, but it's
Mhm.
hilarious to me that you fuck up a donut order. It's the easiest thing in America. It is the easiest thing in America. You can walk up to them and you can say, "I'd like an assortment," and you're done. He fucked that up.
Oh my god. It was cringe. And this is why I said, like, for me, here's what I realized. I was trying to run the middle ground for a side that didn't want me. Okay. That's something that I realized and I had an epiphany on
Mhm.
only recently was that anytime I would try to halfway this situation, go, well, Donald Trump really meant this and that. They don't give a crap about. I have had numerous MAGA people look at me and go, Doghouse, you're a socialist, you're a lefty, you're a liberal. Okay, well, if that's how you feel, why am I defending your viewpoints? You're not going to defend mine. Why am I defending yours? And this is something I've seen time and time again between Joe Rogan, the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. Tim Pool kind of did it, either halfway memeing or either being serious. And all they did was they got crapped on by the MAGA base. And I'm seeing stuff about like the crowd sizes. The last one is that what was the last one? I'm trying to remember. Oh, what was it? What was it? What was it? What was it? I can't remember. Oh, they were busting in people to Savannah. And I'm like, Kamala could do like the most follow everything to a T. It'll never be enough. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm rooting for the underdog then. That's who I'll root for because I'm tired of it. She did the interview. All I heard for 2 months or a month was she's not doing interviews. She's not doing interviews. I didn't hear she's not doing solo interviews. I didn't hear she's not doing interviews with Fox. I'm hearing she's not doing interviews. Now, when she does an interview, it's, oh, well, she did it with Walls. Oh, well, she did it with this thing. Oh, well, there was softball.
Even though, isn't that the tradition? Like the first interview after the convention is supposed to be with both the nominees that were just chosen by the party. And but let's
Exactly.
be clear, neither of this is the first time they're both like in front of the country like this. It makes sense that they would want to introduce both candidates to the country that most of the
Yep.
country doesn't really know them much personally or even professionally.
Yeah. And when you look at the questions that, when you look at the questions that she asked of them, they were Republican questions. Okay. Those are absolute questions that they asked. And that's something to me was to hear that, oh, well, these are softball. These were pretty hardball questions that were
Tough
mostly,
questions.
yeah. And I think the other thing too is I kept seeing comparisons between the interview, the same interview, I forgot her name, that did the interview with JD Vance versus Kamala. I'm like, guys, one was hostile, the other one wasn't. Okay, JD Vance was coming after CNN like, she stepped in his Cheerios or something, or stepped on his wrong donut order. Okay, Kamala was more likable. She was receptive. She knew when to answer the question and when to stop talking. JD Vance in that interview, which they conveniently cut out, by the way, his responses and only show the questions, his responses were more hostile to the interviewer. Of course, the interviewer is going to be like, okay, I've had enough of this crap. Let's go at it. That's exactly what happened. Kamala was just more warmed and was like, hey, okay. Yeah, it was a little hostile question, but okay. She wasn't
So
combative.
the interviewer's name is Dana Bash, and we have somebody in the waiting room.
Yeah, let me bring him in. What's up, Demagogue? To work your mic out. But anyways, what were you going to say, Cancel?
I was going to say it was Dana Bash, and you're right. She was, I mean, it wasn't the hardest interview that's ever been given to a Democratic candidate or whatever, but she asked follow-ups. She kept pinning points. Whenever Kamala tried to do the normal, politician thing of kind of sidestepping an issue, Dana Bash would be like, well, what about day one? I asked you about day one. And,
Yep.
so it was a good interview. And then the Vance one, you're right. It was like normal-ish questions. And then Vance was like, why are you talking to me like this? I'm
Yes.
like, calm down.
It's
It
like
was-
he can't be anything but offense.
Right?
I've
Yes.
noticed that. It feels like every time when he makes a speech, every time when he interacts with people, it feels like he can't do anything but offense. Even when he interacts with the public, it has to be like, we're not like those crazy Democrats, huh? It's never just like, this is why I like this type of like mustard flavor. It's reminds
right,
me of a
Dylan,
grandma's sandwich or whatever. It's never that.
There's one instance where he's not on attack, and it's when he's bombing a joke. Okay, he can do that too. You
That is
cannot be
true.
attacking, and you can try and make a joke and just fail.
That is
Yeah.
true. He can also do that.
Have y'all, Demagogue, feel free to jump in whenever you want to, buddy. We're just going to continue talking. But
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah.
Certainly. Hey, did you want to say something about what we're talking about or anything like that?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I caught the end of this, and man,
Yeah.
I was shocked at the Arlington discussion. I was just frankly disgusted. This is the one thing that it's so clear, it's so evident. Trump doesn't give a shit about the veterans. You saw what he did at Belleau-Wood when he didn't go to the cemetery there in France for the Marines. He sent John Kelly to do it in the rain and lied about it. I watched his interview. Did you see his interview on Sean Ryan? Sean Ryan
I had
podcast
not.
interview he just did?
I had not.
That was is unbelievable. He starts off talking about how it was all lies, it was all bullshit, and John Kelly's a fool, and so on. And that's the thing. It's like nobody respects the troops more than me. Nobody respects the veterans more than me. And then the next thing he says is John Kelly's a dumb fuck, and so is Mark Milley, and so on. And it's just this is the most disgraceful shit I have ever seen in any political discourse. And then what he does at Arlington is it's just the same thing on top of this. It boggles
Yeah.
my mind that so when I caught the end of this Arlington discussion, this would really bug me. I caught the end of this, and I just couldn't fucking believe people are sitting there defending him
Yeah.
for what he was doing
I
there. And it's just the most disgraceful thing I've ever seen. I've been to Arlington, and it's the saddest shit. And it was just you know what? Anyway,
No,
so
you're
that just it
fine.
pissed me off so much. I had to come on and say that. That's it.
Yeah, no, you're
Thank
fine,
you.
buddy. I appreciate you coming on. And that's the thing is that when you look at the Arlington Cemetery situation, that is one moment where, again, I look at it and I go, you cannot cut this any which way other than looking at it as this was a clear photo op. Plain Jane simple, including the people who were there at the cemetery. They were people who had spoke at the RNC. They were very vocal against Biden, I believe, saying to the extent of either like "F you" or something along those lines. Dylan, let me ask you your opinion. Have you seen anything about this Arlington National Cemetery issue?
Yeah,
going
I
on?
mean, I think it's bizarre. It's just another example of how the Trump campaign can't ever apologize, and he puts a bunch of people of him around him who he likes because they can go and attack. He sees them on TV and they're attacking. He sees them on social media and they're attacking. He sees them somewhere as like an attack dog of people who's like, oh, I like their spunk compared to the other people around me who are limp-wristed. They're not willing to go aggressive like I am. All of their stuff is milk toast. And so then he gets people like that Chung guy who's his supposed to be like his communications person, and after they end up filming in Arlington National Cemetery section 60. And I mean, I was raised by a Marine. Section 60 is hollowed ground. I mean, the whole cemetery is hollowed ground, but section 60 is the most hollowed ground because it's the most recent battlefield deaths. So you're going to have
Yep.
people from recent deaths in Afghanistan, those who died in Mali, anyone who died in service in the United States military overseas, recent deaths could be buried there. And so when he films in that area, there's a million reasons why this is wrong, but I'll try to narrow it down to the simplest. These are recent combat deaths, so there's people there who just buried their kids, and it's not like a big story. It's not very public. They don't want it to be public. They don't want to use their grave for a political ad. And what they ended up releasing with the footage they took was not just a political attack ad, it was a political attack ad. Using their bodies like, hey, they wouldn't have died if it wasn't for, Joe Biden. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but if you start with the Doha Agreement up to how that withdrawal went out, I don't think Joe Biden is the only person where blame lies, even though I do think the Biden administration has some blame. But it's not even a political debate. You shouldn't be doing that at the feet of where their bodies lie. And that's why the staff tried to intervene, because they could see what the problem would be. And other families have spoken up and said they weren't happy with it, having their
Yep.
graves filmed in this way. And so they then end up scuffling and pushing the staff, which not only the staff recited and the cemetery recited, but now the U.S. Army has recited. I don't know who else. Maybe they want to armor the.
Yeah.
Maybe next they want to argue with the Marine Corps, maybe the Navy, maybe CIA. Go, have I don't know. Get up. Get up Lee Ermey. What was his name? The old Marine.
Oh yeah,
from,
yeah. Lee
yeah,
Ermey.
dig him up, like resurrect him and have
Yes.
him, ask him. But it seems like the case is so heavy, and Trump could distance himself from it. He could do everything to distance himself from it. The campaign could, but instead of just saying sorry or even just not acknowledging it, which would be the smart thing, his guy goes on the attack and says that the person who pushed them had a mental health episode. And so, of course, that made the army respond. And now Trump's talking about it on the campaign trail when he shouldn't be bringing any attention to it whatsoever. It's crazy that it's bringing attention to it. But I mean, if to me, it's so cut and dry. And it just shows in my mind right now, I think Trump has taken the reins of the campaign back from his advisors who are telling him to not get personal because he sees
Yeah.
the numbers dipping. He sees the campaign fundraising not nearly as high as Kamala's. He sees where the momentum is. No matter what he says about the poll numbers, he is not like brain dead. I don't care if he's the oldest nominee in U.S. history. He's not brain dead. He can see the temperature in the
Yep.
room changing. And he is saying, screw your strategy of me not doing personal attacks, even though he's always been doing personal attacks the whole time. But I'm trying to think about it from his perspective.
Yeah.
I'm now going to do what I did back in 2016. He's back in the saddle. But can this old cowboy do this at 78? I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you,
And
you know,
too, look at JD
go ahead.
Vance. Look what JD Vance said about Tim Walz, right? Like Tim Walz is stolen valor. He said stolen valor about Tim Walz. My God, I'm sorry. It just fucking
I,
baffles my mind.
and that's the thing is I'll tell you, you know, when you look at this situation with JD Vance, this is also why I mentioned in the show that I think it's really wild to me to see Republicans. First of all, I want everybody to know Kamala Harris did put out a statement for those families who lost their loved ones. I know it's not like her being present there, but again, and I will say it again and again and again for anyone who just tuned in, please think about this. JD Vance went to Kamala Harris's plane to try to like make a photo op opportunity to say, see guys, I will interview with the press. Do you really think that the way to memorialize those fallen soldiers is to bring Kamala Harris with Trump in the same room? Do you not think that Trump's ego would just sit there and be like, I respect the dead, I will not speak? No, Donald Trump, we all know how this would go. Donald Trump or JD Vance or one of his aides would certainly try to get some kind of bug out of Kamala Harris. I don't think that Kamala Harris should have shown up. It should have been one or the other. That would have been the smart move. I have no qualms with her not showing up. I think the statement is sufficient. I think that Biden was there on that tarmac, and a lot of people, he was looking at his watch. It's not him looking at his watch is far less disgusting than what took place there. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
It goes beyond that.
No,
Sorry,
I'm just being like, oh, he looked at his watch at one point during the ceremony. And I remember, like, I know, like, there was a scandal, like, the one guy looked at his watch during the debates or whatever. That stuff, honestly, to me, doesn't matter. This is people, like, trying to be like, oh, I read his body language. That means he doesn't care. No, he's the president of the goddamn United States, and the entire world economy relies on which direction he fucking farts in the morning. And so, yeah, I think his timing matters. But I don't think him, considering his background and how we've known him to do in public service, like hates the military or something. Makes no sense. And then on the other hand, you've got like Trump's staff roughhousing with with Arlington Cemetery staff at next to the freshly dug graves of Marines and servicemen killed overseas in front of their families, and then filming it all to make it a attack ad, not just a campaign ad, an attack ad. It feels as if like if I was doing like a Robot Chicken like version of the Trump campaign back in 2015 when this all started, it would be something like this. It's it's insane to me. But honestly, maybe it'll have like a 0.1% effect on the polls.
Yeah, right.
He got away with John McCain.
so
He said
the
John
real quick.
McCain was a coward. You remember that?
Don't forget the Gold Star family,
Yes.
the Khans. The Khans, he ended
Yep.
up sitting there and I believe calling them losers and we also have recently the Medal of Honor. Remember
Medal of
how-
Honor thing. Oh my god.
the Medal of Honor one that he tried to clean up and
You get to keep your legs.
Yes, that was the thing is it was like, no, where he was like, oh yeah, like, you know, I get what he was trying to say, but at the same time, like, it doesn't help any better. You're like, well, because one was alive, it's better than if you were dead. It's like, oh, sure. But like the way you said it was really bad. And so this whole debacle, and it goes back to what you were saying, Dylan, is I think that he's kind of going at the beat of his own drum and ignoring his advisors. And then the messed up thing about it is instead of Donald Trump going out and saying, hey guys, I messed up, which he did kind of with the Medal of Honor, but instead of him doing it, it's a lot of his campaign aides who are having to kind of pick this up and go, hey, what he said wasn't really this. I know you asked me this question, but I need to really address this. And it was like, come on. So, what were you gonna say, Cancel? I saw you trying to get in there for a second.
I was just going to say that we know that it's a political thing, and this isn't necessarily Trump specific, but all of the right came out to defend this whole thing, right? They wanted this. Oh, Kamala didn't show up at the event. Ben Shapiro is like, maybe Kamala didn't show up because this is an emblem of the worst national security failure in my lifetime. It's like, Ben Shapiro, you lived through the Iraq War. Okay, we've had much bigger national security failures than the withdrawal from Afghanistan, but they wanted to make a political point out of it, so they did the best thing they could, which is get him with those white crosses. Every American knows what that looks like, and try and take pictures.
Did you, Dylan? Did you see that there was actually one of the family members that was there? I don't know if this has been confirmed, but it certainly looks like this. Laid one of their phones on top of the soldier's grave, right next to that main subject. I saw this.
I did not see that. I don't even want to think about it.
Yes,
because like this, then it's like you're involving and I'm not even. No,
I know.
They just lost a family member. Like absentmindedly putting their phone. Leave them alone. Private people. I think scuffling with staff is so many levels above it. Let's not divert any attention.
No, I know, right? But that's the thing is like when you talk about photo op, that point right there, it's like, if I'm not mistaken, those campaign aides were trying to take a photo of Trump. It's like, if this was not a photo op, why did they push aside the person who was trying to tell them not to take a photo? This is clearly a photo op. But yeah, to me, this was just like, I don't like this at all.
It's fixation on the photo op thing. Version. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say it's the 2024 version of the upside down Bible. Okay. Trump's got to have one stupid fucking photo op every cycle, okay? And this is the one for this cycle.
Yeah.
Well, his one for this cycle was him almost getting assassinated. I mean, I think, but I think in terms of the optics. But the thing again, what's shocking to me is the consistency of his contempt for not only people who are extraordinary Americans, but who have served him personally. Like the fact that he would sell out John Kelly, who was his chief of staff, who worked for him, was covering his ass, and then he would just sell him out over Belleau Wood, which was so disgraceful. And there are other things about that you people may not know. For example, do you recall what he did with the tree Macron gave him when Macron came to the White House and gave him a tree from Belleau Wood? Do you recall what happened there?
No, I didn't. I didn't hear about this one.
Yeah, you don't recall, do you? He killed it. He had it dug up and moved, and then it died. And then he had Macron send him another tree.
Oh my God.
Right? I mean, this is the thing. It's like he just does not. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. What his pathology is with this, but it's just.
I think this time he'll respect the sanctity of the office.
Great one. Now, let me tell you something, guys.
Okay. So if
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if we had received the Statue of Liberty, Trump would have got knocked over into the harbor, and we'd just be like, France, can you send another one?
Right. Can you send another one? Hey, the statue fell. Yeah. Cancel. Also, your mic's breaking up a little bit. But that's the thing, too, is like, I'm not ashamed to say this. Kind of in hindsight. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for Cruz for the Senate in 2018, and I voted for Trump again in 2020. And I'll tell you this, what has really shifted my mind is, one, it's the cult-like behavior. Two, it's the fact that when you look at his policies, because I did do this. I was like, okay, maybe I'm kind of like saying, I try to have a moment where I was like, okay, maybe I am saying a little bit, I'm being a little too harsh on Trump. I went and looked at his policies. They're just as worse as what they're. A lot of people say, well, Kamala Harris's policies are really vague and they don't really get. His policy is like, his economic policy, for anyone who's unaware, is drill, baby, drill. He wants to solve all the economic problems by simply drilling. There is very little.
Yeah.
Which to me, it's like, compare that to Kamala Harris's child tax credits. You compare that to her trying to do first-time home buyer assistance programs. Now, I'm not saying whether they're good or bad, but you got price gouging things like that. Those appeal to most Americans because most Americans don't give a crap where their gasoline comes from. They want to know, how am I going to put food on my table tomorrow?
I mean, like, I don't. I mean, like, if we were developing
his business interests. people who they're gonna make money from it's profitable. What was his number one economic policy? Was it cutting corporate taxes? Remember what he called it? Supercharging the economy. We're gonna supercharge the economy by reducing progressive tax policies. Like this, and then what is the result of that? Oh well, it cost trillions of dollars, just like the George Bush tax cuts did. Who he then supposedly and his base supposedly hates George Bush. So
Yep.
JFK, who they love for some reason, which is inexplicable to me. JFK's buried at fucking Arlington, okay? I've been there. I've seen JFK's memorial. It's moving. And my
Sure.
God, the idea that you would just go there and not give a shit and then somehow wrap yourself in the flag and pretend like you know anything about JFK or you care about history. Please just think about Andrew Jackson. He thinks it's a pathology about him, about being I think about being remembered historically or something. I suspect, but this is
Yeah.
totally subjective, so
What
I don't want to speculate further.
what were you gonna jump in and say, Dylan?
Oh, I already forgot. Don't worry
Oh,
about
okay,
it.
okay. All right. No,
Wait,
but,
no, I remembered
okay,
now.
there you go.
Like
Yeah.
if we were developing, like if this was Russia, we just want to develop a petrol state. Then I think that maybe that economic platform would be good enough. But obviously we're not, and we shouldn't, and it's terrible and a horrible idea. But the problem I have with Trump and all of his economic planning or all of his foreign policy planning is it's all short, punchy, and without depth. And it's because he doesn't seek outside knowledge to build these platforms or throw out these ideas. I think a lot of it's like his own marketing strategy. It's like when he reformed like the entire Republican platform, he pissed off a lot of people doing that, gutting out a lot of stuff that people thought was like guiding the morals of the party for short, punchy bullet points and what was going to necessarily pull better for the party. And that pissed off a lot of pro-lifers because a lot of things that the Republican Party was guided by in the pro-life movement is being quickly abandoned because of the moment of this election. And personally, if this is something the Republican Party sticks with, it's not something I have a big problem with, but I know it's something that they have probably a big problem with. Now, whether or not it's just Trump like being a shyster and he's just like quickly juking in and out, like at the end of the day, he's still opening a Pandora's box because then people will test people by that standard, like a future Mike Pence runs in 2028. Like this guy's more extreme than Trump on abortion, and that line.
Let me tell you too. I think another thing that Republicans weren't really prepared for was abortion being on the ballot for a lot of these states. They were very short-sighted in their win on abortion. They said, "Heck yeah, we got it. We got Roe overturned." But what they didn't predict was that now Roe is on the ballots in these states. What does that mean? That means that people who are otherwise not really privy to a lot of these elections, they're going to turn out now because abortion is on the ballot. So now you're going to draw up all those Democratic voters who are like, hey, I may not normally vote, but I know that I've got to vote for this. And who is that voting block? Women, majority women.
And when you think about it, think about the states where these are getting put in. It's in Montana, Senate race over there. Very important. Jon Tester. I want him to win if we're going to keep the Senate. We got another one, and I think North Carolina, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
We got one in Florida,
Yeah, there's
if
one
I
in
know
North
correctly. And
Carolina
people
as
weren't
well.
even talking about Florida before until after this was then put on the ballot. And now I hear people talking about Florida. Now I hear about big sign-up sheets in Florida because it was like this, boom, it's on the ballot. Now Kamala's in the race, polling bumps from both. I mean, now they're talking about it. It's still not likely, but they're talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's on the
Again,
ballot in Arizona
yeah.
and North
Go ahead.
Carolina. And if we win Arizona and North Carolina, we almost don't need the Rust Belt. We need like one of the three. So it will screw them.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Demagogue?
Well, I just think it goes beyond. I think his bottom line is like a businessman's opportunism, frankly, and it shows in this Sean Ryan interview. And he did this when he was having. It was one of the first press conferences he ever did. He was talking to Angela Merkel. Merkel was at the White House, and he referred to the United States as a company. And I always found that very strange because, of course, I mean, it would be normal for a businessman, of course, who's used to doing this his whole life to just kind of
Yeah.
off the top of his mind refer to this. But then when I was watching the Sean Ryan interview, which took place a couple days ago, he again referred to the United States as a company as opposed to a country. And this was sort of the first thing that he was thinking of. Everything he does, it seems to me, has this fundamental transactional value, which is again ultimately derived from some kind of imperative about maximizing profit, whatever it is, or maximizing his own personal benefit as a businessman, etc. And I see, and so I was going to disagree with Dylan because I don't think that he's not listening to people. I think he is. The problem with that is that the what he's getting from that, what he's gaining from that, or what he's thinking about that, again, is totally transactional. And he says this in these interviews. So, like, he talks about when he sat down with Putin, he sat down with Kim Jong Un, and he's got good relationships with the Ayatollahs, whatever it is, and so and Netanyahu, etc. And he's thinking the same thing, which is like, as long as it's me. Personally, me, I'm in charge. I'm doing it. I'm in control, which is something that I can't think of any United
No.
States presidents who thought that way.
And I want people
Frankly, I can't think of one.
yeah, and I want people to keep this in mind too. What does
Except
it say?
James Polk. I'm sorry, I can. James Polk thought the same way. He likes to pretend he's Andrew Jackson. He's James fucking Polk.
Well, I'll tell you guys, what does it say about the state of your campaign when you're already trying to form the stolen election narrative? That's a high risk bet, because guess what? Let's just say that Donald Trump were to win the election. Is it still a stolen election? Because you sat there and you're hedging your bets here a little bit. Okay. We still got 2-3 more months to go. And you're sitting there saying, well, it's already stolen. Look, they're clearly trying to steal the election. I guess they just won't steal the election when he wins. Right. It's insane. But here's what we're going to do, guys. I'm getting a little closer to 9:30. I am still in a very Republican state, which means I do still partake in some Republican activities, such as going to church on a Sunday. Okay. So I am a white dude for Harris, or Republican for Harris, whatever you want to call me. Look, guys, I've been exiled from the Republican Party. Whether this is me giving an actual support behind Harris, I'm not, quite sure, but I think that it's quite clear that at least I have no place in the Republican Party as it stands right now, with MAGA having control over it. I hope to see more Republicans kind of go that way and try to put a referendum by their vote and say, hey, look, this is not the Republican Party that I remembered, quite frankly, even 4 or 5 years ago. It has dramatically changed. I think even past 8 years ago, it has changed. So what I can say is this: I'll let you guys hear if y'all have anything y'all want to say last, go ahead. But I'm gonna be getting off here in about the next 3 minutes. So go ahead. If Dylan, do you want to say anything? Yeah, go ahead, Democog. Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, I got video games to play. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
And I'll backtrack a little bit on my disagreement with Dylan. I think he was right, in some regards. And like sorry, this is it. I'm already losing my train of thought here.
It's
So
okay,
fuck it.
bro.
No, you go ahead.
You're okay.
I'll remember.
Okay, go ahead, Dylan. What were you gonna
This is
say?
having a Joe Biden moment.
Yeah, well, I don't know what he was talking about, but I agree that I was right, whatever it was about. Besides that, I mean, I like to see more people who, if you stand it as a constitutionalist and you base yourself in constitutionalist conservatism, basing it on the founding documents of the country, because you wanted to preserve something that you thought was beautiful and helping to give people liberty. Not everything was perfect. That stuff needed to be important. I mean, stuff needed to be changed, stuff needed to be adapted, and there's mechanisms to do that, but there was something beautiful in there that you needed to preserve. And conservatives, in a big sense, saw themselves as the preserver of this ideal against the more well-minded liberal reformers who are quickly like, well, why don't we just change this to make it better? And that was supposed to be the balance. But if the side that's supposed to be preserving these institutions or these norms is saying, suspend the Constitution if I don't win the election, just blatantly, openly, it's not a secret plot, it was in our face, and that's acceptable. It's not just a question of that person possibly being a threat and doing damage to our institutions. It's a problem of that being normalized, because if Donald Trump wins, he's 78 years old, he might die a year into his office, and then what has he normalized? What has he passed down to the new generation of MAGA Republicans, MAGA Republican Party? You're going to see the future of Carrie Lakes and J.D. Vances. Are those going to be the type of people that are the face of the Republican Party? Is that going to be the future? I don't know. Either way, I'm concerned, and that's why I hope to see more people like Doghouse, who I know we don't agree on everything, and I know he doesn't agree with Kamala on everything, like I don't. I don't agree with her on some gun control stuff. I know that you don't. But at the end of the day, voting for people isn't voting for your perfect candidate. If you wait for that,
Exactly.
a candidate will never come around. It's about making the best political decisions for the future of the country. And
Absolutely.
I think that should be the number one priority when you vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dylan, before we go, there's one very important question to ask. When's the next hippy dippy? And we got any spoilers you want to spoil, or we're still working?
Well,
Question, yeah.
it should be I believe it's on September 13th. If it isn't, it will be pushed back maybe a week to the 20th, but it should be on the 13th.
Okay.
And the topics are going to be, should the United States remain in NATO is going to be one of the topics. It's going to be a foreign policy topic. We're looking for some anti-interventionists. We're looking for some Euro-Atlanticists. We're looking for some interesting foreign policy discussion. And the other one is going to be right after and the other topic is going to be about the debate, because it's going to be right after the debate. It's going to be about who's better for the country. So
Heck
it is
yeah.
going to be pulling from what is going to be certainly a headline grabber.
That's what I said. And I look, I'm gonna take some credit. Okay. I'm gonna take some credit. Here's the thing, guys. When you're forming a debate or a panel, you want the most recent events. Okay. Like, look, I love talking about whatever, Antifa riots and stuff, but that stuff was like 2019. Okay. That stuff doesn't happen anymore because, well, Biden's in office. But here's the point. I'm excited, guys. Huge shout out to Dylan Burns. I would love to sit there, Dylan, if there's a little wink wink at me trying to get in on some commentary again, provide some helpful commentary, would love to do so. Anyways, guys, huge shout out to Dylan Burns. Huge shout out to Cancel the Communist. He's trying to follow up with his Twitter game. I'm trying to work on it. Somehow I'm becoming a TikTok star. Guys, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because I'd rather be a YouTuber than a TikTok star. I feel a little cringy even saying that, but it looks like the way I'm going is I'm going to be a TikToker. I'd rather be a YouTuber than a TikToker, but anyways, I digress. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in.
Get on Tiberius too, man. I got to hear from him. Get on him too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just say.
Huge shout out to Tiberius D, and a huge shout out to our boy Redtron, who is our editor. He has been carrying the weight of trying to get our YouTube up and running. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you guys again on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that will be our next stream, and we'll talk more about current events. It will not be the Political Compass, but thank you for everyone who tuned in. You guys rock. Have a